Thank you for taking time to join me here at the Real ResQ Podcast, part of the Vertical Podcast Network known as Helicast. Huge shout out to Vertical Magazine for putting this platform together, which includes the Hangar Z Podcast, the Helicopter Podcast, the Valor Flight Crew Podcast, and all the Vertical MRO podcasts. Go to verticalhelicast.com to check out all of these amazing podcasts. Now I got to give a shout out to all of the sponsors for this episode. Axnest, their mission, wireless intercom. Check them out at axnest.com. Blue Drop Training and Simulation, innovative training and interactive technologies. Check them out at bluedroppts.com. Onboard Systems, Hoist and Winch. When lives are on the line, proven performance means everything. Check them out at hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com. Switlick Survival Products. They manufacture the highest quality safety and survival products for aviation, marine, and military markets. Check them out at switlick.com. Ready Bar. From deep space to the front lines. Get your meal replacement bar at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. And go to therealresqstore.com to get all the latest products to help support this podcast. Now it's time to get into our next episode. We've got more stories coming from the United States Coast Guard, from a guy throughout his career earned 5 achievement medals, 7 commendation medals, 2 air medals, and 2 distinguished flying crosses. But first, let's start with a few fun facts about him. He has a 1963 Ford Falcon convertible. He has been married for 39 years as of the recording of this podcast. He enjoys reading books about World War II. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dan Molthen. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. Today, I've got a very wonderful and exciting guest to join us. He is a lifeguard at the YMCA, Mr. Dan Molthen. What's up, brother Dan?
Not much. I just had to work yesterday, a whole 6 hours. And no big rescues yesterday. Not like the time I saved that lady from the bug that was attacking her. We have some pretty good bugs here in Florida, and I jumped in and crushed it with my bare hands. And then a couple months ago, I was helping a lady in the pool. She was a little big, and I started sliding out of the chair, and I had to jump in the water and try to catch her. And that didn't work out too good. Once we both got our head
above the water. For her, or both?
Oh, yeah, she fell right on top of me. She slid right out of that chair, right on top of me. So I had to upright her. Of course, my buddies are all laughing at me. They're not going to help. But so we got her going and got her the end of the pool, got her out. So it's been an exciting couple of years, 5 years at the YMCA. So
that's good.
Yeah.
So you have your life-saving, all your life-saving like aquatics set up, your CPR, AED.
Oh, I got it all. I feel just like a real rescue swimmer from the Coast Guard, man. Except it's a 4 to 5 foot pool, and I figure I'm doing the same thing, that I did when I was in the Coast Guard, just sitting there watching water, making sure people are safe. Except when the weather gets good, I get to go inside. But other than that, it's a great retirement job. Don't get much money, but can make a difference. Recruit a couple people. Just recruited a kid to be a rescue swimmer, and working on a couple more. So take him down.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So life
is good. So now that little teaser in the opening, you are actually a retired pilot out of the United States Coast Guard. And I have connected with you. We met through Verticon and at the show down there, and I asked you to come on. And the great part about it was that when I asked you to come on, I know some of your stories. I just didn't know it was you until I start reading some of the awards, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know these stories and I know these guys. This is amazing. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Oh, hey, so this is great.
I'm psyched. So let's start with a little background before we get into some of your intense and amazing career. How and why did you end up joining the U.S. Coast Guard, and what brought you to being a pilot?
Well, I've always wanted to be a pilot. My dad, right at the end of World War II, was in flight school, got 51 hours in a steerman, and war was over, so he became an orthodontist and raised me. But we always had aviation around. He was a master model builder. I remember watching Midway as a kid in the theater, thinking, man, I want to be on that aircraft carrier. So I did. I joined the Navy, went to school, flight school, and then about 10 years after flying the H-3 and the Bell Jet Ranger, I talked to a buddy of mine, Bruce Jones, and we were both instructing at the time. He goes, hey, you should go Coast Guard. So that's what I did. I jumped over the Coast Guard and got to start flying the best helicopter ever, the 60. And, so I started in Elizabeth City and thinking this is cool. And it was just awesome. I mean, and I was kind of the right place, the right time, or the wrong place, the wrong time, or right place, wrong time, right place. I know. And I just started getting a lot of good search and rescue. So, and I was young enough to, realize that I was brave enough and young enough. Now I think back at it, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? But it just worked out where I got a lot of good search and rescue. Went from East City to Sitka, back to East City, and just got to fly till I was old, and then I retired and ended up in Florida.
That's super cool. Question: when you were in the Navy, were you doing search and rescue or anything like off the Navy, or like on standby with some of those guys for doing in case anything happened with any of the fighter jets or anything?
Yeah. So we were on the aircraft carrier H-3. We did a lot of anti-submarine warfare, which it's kind of, if someone wants to get away from you, it's going to get away from you. But we did get to stand, guard. We were the guard helicopter out there when they were landing, but never had to go out on a rescue in the Navy. I think we just didn't do that. It was mostly just ASW and doing starboard delta on the starboard side of the ship. You just kind of did a D thing, watching the planes land until one of them crashed. But we were lucky; we didn't have any crashes when I was in the Navy on our ship on the USS Eisenhower. So
nice. So there's another question that I'm going to caveat it into, which brings me into the Coast Guard side of it. Is how many hours did you have flying the H-60 throughout the Navy in your time in the Navy?
Well, I never flew the H-60 in the Navy. I was the H-3s. Yeah, the H-3 was that one you always saw picking up the astronauts back in the 60s.
Yeah, okay. My bad. All right.
A little different from the Coast Guard's H-60, but that's what I started in, and then I jumped over to, and then I instructed in the Bell Jet Ranger, the TH-57. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that. My bad.
I'm a little old.
Okay.
So. So I did that. Then I jumped over to the 60 in the Coast Guard. Flew that for.
Got it.
I think I got 6,000 hours in that or something, or 50.
Holy smokes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
I did it forever. I sold my soul so I could keep flying, and that's why I never made it to commander, which is okay. Okay. But I'm not bitter.
Yeah, no. Not at all. You don't sound it. You're working at the swimming pool as a lifeguard. This is amazing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm really getting up there. That's why I tell everybody I was cleaning out the gutters with my bare hands the other day at the Y, and I'm like, yeah, this is why I went to flight school, got my master's degree, so I could clean out gutters.
Oh, that's
But I love
funny.
it. It's a lot of fun. I meet such great people.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you do. Like coming in and out of the Y. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the question is then, like, as far as hours flying in the Navy, what did you come out of the Navy with? About how many flight hours?
About 2,100 hours.
Oh, that's pretty good. Nice.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Then I did another 5 or 6, 6, I guess, in the Coast Guard. So, but
the reason I'm asking that is you make the transition into the Coast Guard out of the Navy, and when you get there, you get qualified on H-60, and like your first rescue out of an H-60 was kind of a big one.
That was a big one. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I'd only been in for a year, I think, and I was just a little JG, and but I was with Dave Gunderson, he's old pilot, not old, he's lieutenant commander, but just a lot of experience. And then, Bobby Blackwell was our flight mechanic, so it worked out good. And Mario Vitone, of course, he was our swimmer. And we're all pretty young except for Dave Gunderson. So, and it was a pretty wild case.
Well, I get into this with you. And here's the reason I brought this up is number one, you know what? Congratulations. You earned yourself a Distinguished Flying Cross on your very first rescue with the United States Coast Guard. Well done, sir. Well done.
That's all right. Yeah, I was like, hey, this is great. Didn't know that. But
the other part that's really cool about this is, so Mario Vitone, since you mentioned his name, he actually came on this podcast. He was episode 12, and he talks about this rescue that we're about to get into. Now, what I didn't know at the time, and what I'm excited right after I read your award and we get into this, is I didn't realize that you were already, I'm going to call it carrier qualified, and had been landing on carriers quite a bit. So this was not abnormal for you. This was kind of a routine thing. Like, oh, we're going to go out to a carrier and land. Got it. So
yeah, we got that. Dave hadn't done it. So I'm like, well, I guess I could do it. So, we had to land on it twice, and the first time that carrier's actually going, hey, we're getting out of the storm. So they were heading in, and we had to kind of talk them into staying out a little bit longer. So, but I'd landed on a carry before, the first one was easy. It was daytime, but we're still having waves breaking over the bow.
My God. All right. Let me get into the DFC. Let me get into the write-up, and then I am so excited to get this in, out there and dive right into it. Citation to accompany the award of the Distinguished Flying Cross to Lieutenant Junior Grade Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant J.G. Molthen is cited for extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight on 17 November 1994 while serving as co-pilot aboard Coast Guard helicopter 6034. The aircrew was engaged in the rescue of a family of 4 from the sailing vessel Marine Flower 2 that was being thrashed by Hurricane Gordon 400 miles off the coast of North Carolina. Lieutenant J.G. Molthen's meticulous pre-flight planning, constant reevaluations of the strong shifting wings, verifications of fuel burn rates, and continual updates of ground speed were critical in the successful completion of both the extremely difficult rescue and long-range 800-plus mile over-water flight in hurricane conditions. His extraordinary aeronautical ability was evident during the day-night landings aboard the USS America. With the seas breaking over the bow, he expertly guided the helicopter down to safe landings in conditions that were well out of limits of carrier flight operations. His diligent monitoring of aircraft systems, altitudes, and obstacles allowed the pilot to better concentrate on hoisting the mother and 4-month-old infant out of the storm-tossed seas. His efforts allowed the crew to complete the rescue evolution expeditiously when fuel endurance was critical. With the rescue completed, he navigated the helicopter back to the USS America. Lieutenant J.G. Molthen's actions, aeronautical skill, and valor were instrumental in the rescue of 4 persons. His courage, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Wow. Okay. Yeah, welcome to the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was. It was a great case, and just a great crew, and the interesting thing about that too, on a side note, was two firsts. I got when I was doing the carrier landing, carrier controlled landing at night when we had the baby and stuff. You come down and then you call the ball. I don't know if you've seen Top Gun. And, it's a Tomcat ball. I got to say Jayhawk ball. So I think I'm the only one who's ever said that. That just means you can see the landing system. And the other thing was I get back and, I'm talking to, getting interviewed by all these massive, news stations, on the phone thinking, this is the best. Then Dave Gunderson, the pilot goes, hey, Dan, the CEO wants to see you. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I got passed over for lieutenant that same day. So the captain calls me and he goes,
I'm so sorry.
I know. No, well, it's like the captain calls me and he goes, Dan, I don't know why you got passed over. You're a direct commissioned aviator, so we didn't, we usually were the very back, the engine fodder that got passed over first. So he calls me in. So I'm like, man, I just talked to CNN and Fox News, and now I'm getting passed over but I got picked up the next year. But I was like, damn, man, I'm probably the first guy to ever say Jayhawk ball and get passed over and get a DFC on the same day. Very humiliating. And not, it's just not humiliating. It's just, humbling.
Humbling. Yeah.
Hey, you did all this great stuff. Congratulations. Hey, you're getting passed over. We don't watch you anymore. So
my gosh,
that's just a side note from that case. So it was just a different case. It was the first time the hoist cam was ever used. So we had everything. I mean, we had the way offshore, baby, hoist cam. We had everything working. So we got a lot out of that. We went to a lot of parties and all that. So it was a good case. It was a good case.
So here's what I'd like you to do is, if you don't mind, run us through it from your eyes. And you get the call of a distressed vessel, in distress, 4 people on board, 400 miles off North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, what goes through your head with that?
Well, at first, you go, yeah, we can't do that. And then we only can go probably maybe 600 miles back and forth, so there's no way we're going 800 miles. And the big storms out there. And it was in the morning, I think. So we're just seeing how we could do it. And then we're like, well, let's call the Navy and see if there's any ships out there. Of course, they first say no. Then they say, well, we do have a carrier, but they're all coming back in because of the big, hurricane storm. And we're like, well, can you keep them out there so we could get some gas to go out? So we pre-flighted. We knew it was a baby and I think 13-year-old girl in the family in a sailboat. And, it's not, none of us had ever done anything like that before. So we're like, okay, let's go. We hooked up with the aircraft carrier and got the gas. And I still remember all the 60s on the side there, the Navy ones, and the guys looking at us like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, why aren't you guys doing this? But they actually didn't have the extra tanks. They didn't have the extra fuel. We took the torpedo space and put, the tanks on it so we could carry an extra bunch of fuel. So then we took off into the storm, and then thank goodness we got there when it was daylight. But, we had talked about what we were going to do. And so we see that boat and we're like, oh my God, it's like, how are we going to get him off? So we put Mario in. Of course, the boat and he separated right away, put him in again. I get that time they had thrown a life ring off the back. So Mario hooked onto that. And, so he's looking up at the boat and Dave's over there trying to fly. He was flying and I'm talking, making sure he doesn't fly in the water. And the mechanic, he's, messing around in the back. It was a lot of work. And then finally, Dave, I think, says, no, we can't do this. This isn't safe. And a big wave washes over the boat and knocks the lady and the baby in the water. So we're like, oh no, the baby's in the water, very calm and collective, of course.
Of course, yeah.
So Mario,
I'm sure it was.
Mario gets him, and he's trying to hold the baby, and the lady's got her, wrapped around his throat, and then finally we get the baby and the mother in, and Bobby just pulls him in and dumps him out. They sit down and the mother's in shock. And this is what kind of got me. And so I'm in the left seat. So I turn around to look back and I see the mother holding the baby and she's just looking around like in shock. And the baby's just laying there and with the eyes closed. And, I've never seen a dead baby before, but I'm like, God, I think we killed a baby. I didn't say that out loud. So, after about 30 seconds, I'm like, oh crap. I look back around and this little baby just looks at me and smiles. I'm like, yes, okay, the baby's alive. But, at first I was like, oh, so you're up and down. It's like, oh no, the baby's dead. And then we got the girl and the father, and then we're got to fly back in the dark. And now we got to pick up the carrier, which, we had a C-130 flying over us. So they kind of guided us to the carrier. And then, we couldn't see the carrier. So we had to do it's a GCA where they talk you down. They say you're left, you're right, you're high, you're low. So they talk you down. So we had to do an approach to the carrier. Dave wasn't familiar with it. So I just took the control to the talking and all that. And that's when I got to say Jayhawk ball, which I thought was cool. And then, of course,
so cool.
I know. It's a small part of the story, but anyway. And then we land, and waves are still breaking over, and we're sitting there, and the captain of the ship's like, "Yeah, you guys might want to shut down." And we're like, "This is one of those things you go back. Maybe we should have, but we made it back safe." But the weather was getting a little better between us and Elizabeth City, so we got gas and then decided to fly back, and we just took off and went back, and because you get stuck on a boat, you never know, you might be going to overseas, who knows, and you never know when you're going to get back. But so we flew back and landed, and it was nighttime, but we had every news van there, and and then interviewing and this and that, and then get passed over for lieutenant. So anyway, so it was exciting.
And then, keep us grounded. That's all.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I thought that's what wives were for, but my wife thought so. So and then after that, it was just we won all the awards for this, so we're going here and we're going all over the place. So we got to go up to White House and for an award up in D.C. and the director of the Secret Service swimmers, which I had done some work with. Mario did a lot of work with him too. Great guy, but he showed us around the White House, and he's funny because we have Dave Gunderson and his daughter. He got me and my wife, but him and my wife, he just kept talking to my wife. That's the only way he talked. So I'm like, man, he's hitting on my wife. No, he wasn't. So we got to walk all around the White House, and so it was good. And we went to San Diego, all over the place. So it worked out pretty good. Yeah, so it was a great case, but the big thing, it had a baby. We had aircraft carrier, all that, all the big ones that we had it on film. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that Miracle Babies one, but So
I was just going to touch on that. You guys actually were in a documentary called "It's Under Real Family," and it's like babies that get rescued and how it was. But you're in part of this documentary for about 3 minutes. I'm actually going to play it right now.
Webster's dictionary defines a hero as someone who risks or sacrifices his or her life. When little Ira Hubbard grows up, he'll have a lot more than just a definition. He'll have a real-life video of a group of heroes who put their lives on the line to save his.
Reset.
Okay, console.
Check.
November 17th, 1994, 9:30 a.m. The Coast Guard station in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, received a frantic mayday call. A family on a boat at sea was in critical danger. And to make the situation even worse, there was a tiny baby on board. 3 days before, Ira Hubbard, his wife Flor, a native of Colombia, South America, 13-year-old daughter Laura, and 4-month-old son Ira Jr. had boarded their new sailboat, the Marine Flower II, on the first leg of a dream trip around the world. But their dream became a nightmare when suddenly Hurricane Gordon, which had been gusting off the coast of Florida, switched course and was now pounding their boat with violent 50-mile-an-hour winds and punishing 30-foot waves.
The storm was a surprise. It was not going according to what was predicted for me by the Weather Service.
For 36 hours, Ira fought swells the size of 3-story buildings. His wife, Flor, transmitted the cry for help.
I called for an SOS and I said there was a baby aboard. And I looked at how small the baby was and how young Laura was. And I was worried that they would die there.
The Coast Guard launched an intensive effort to reach the Hubbards in time to save their lives. But
Marine Flower II was out about 450 miles offshore. Our helicopter was capable of going out 300 miles offshore.
with the family 150 miles out of range, the Coast Guard would embark on the longest rescue mission they had ever attempted. First, the aircraft carrier USS America would steam across the Atlantic and into position, then act as a refueling station for the rescue helicopter. The Hubbard's lives now rested in the hands of 4 men, a 3-man flight crew and rescue swimmer Mario Vittone. Vittone had 2 years of intensive deep water training. But nothing had prepared him to rescue a baby at sea and in a hurricane.
Something that hadn't been done before. But what if you lose him? What if you can't get him? How hard is it going to be to get the baby out of the water?
It felt like they wouldn't get there. And when they got there, I would already be dead or dying from nervousness or a heart attack.
While the rescue helicopter rushed to the scene, a Coast Guard C-130 escort plane flew to meet them. Its job, to transmit instructions to the Hubbards and act as a communication relay for the rescue helicopter. Video cameras mounted on both the plane and the helicopter captured the life or death drama that was about to unfold.
When we got on scene, I looked down at that boat and I go, I cannot believe there's a 4-month-old baby on that boat. And then, of course, how are we going to get that 4-month-old baby off the boat, into the water, and up in the helicopter?
The rescue team had only enough fuel to hover above the sailboat for 34 minutes. The boat was rocking uncontrollably.
I want to climb a little in altitude. Those masts came close that time.
If the mast hit the helicopter, it would knock it out of the sky. To reach the family, rescue swimmer Mario Vittoni would literally have to put his life on the line as he was lowered down 35 feet into the turbulent water on a 3/8-inch steel cable.
Okay, swimmer has his raft. Okay, he's going to climb on board the back. If he can, yeah, to get the baby in his hands, it's a lot safer.
The original plan was to go down to the water and use the life raft as like a staging platform for the baby. So if for some reason we had to let go or I couldn't hang on, the baby'd still be floating and we'd have a way to get to him.
Suddenly, a wave wrenched the life raft from Mario's grasp.
Bad swell. Oh, man, we probably hurt his back. He's in the water again. How's they going to keep that baby alive in the water like that? I don't know.
With the life raft gone and time and fuel running out, the team scrambled to form a backup plan.
The stern of the boat and the bow of the boat would leave as much as 12 feet, cresting over the top of the wave and then slamming back down in, which made it impossible to get on the boat and pull people off that way.
Probably better just have him jump off. Yeah, I would think jump off.
I didn't have any alternative. I knew if I stayed on the boat, we would die.
But as Flor was holding baby Ira, trying to get up enough nerve to jump, the rescue crew decided the jump was too dangerous.
Swimmer's away. Tell him no. Can you tell him no?
Finally, the sea made the decision. Flor and her baby were swept off by a 30-foot wave.
He's in the water. It's too late. He's in the water. Okay, line off. Basket down. Okay, basket is going down.
That basket would be their lifeline to safety.
He's right there. He's 5 feet from him. Come on, Mario, swim. Swim, Mario. Mario has the baby.
I grabbed the mother by the back of her life jacket and grabbed little Ira by the front of his and was trying to separate them and push him up out of the water, get the baby up out of the water and the mother up out of the water. The mother was terrified.
I felt afraid because I didn't understand what Mario was saying to me about the baby. And the baby was swallowing water, and I was trying to put him in the rescue basket.
She was grabbing on to my back, and her other arm was grabbing on the arm that was holding Ira. And at that point, the breaking waves were covering the infant. So at the end, it just had to be a jerk and got the baby up out of the water. And I remember being very relieved to have it completely out of the water. But it still didn't help because then I just looked up and saw the waves behind it, and it just was not a place for the baby to be.
Woman and baby are clear water. Clear move back and left. Clear move back and left. Thank God. Clear move back and left. Don't worry about it, Bob. Dan, you look back there. I'm not bringing them in back first. I want to bring them in face first because that's the way I can get it around the tank. Okay, I'm bringing them up. I'm bringing them in. Hey, basket's in the cabin.
The mother was kind of in shock, looking around like, oh my gosh, what happened? And my first thought was, oh my gosh, the baby didn't survive coming up. And I looked back at the baby one more time, just kind of stared at it for a couple seconds, and he opened his eyes, looked at me, and smiled. I'm like, oh my gosh, this baby just went through all this, and he's smiling.
Taking a load.
Now with Floor and Ira Jr. safely on board the helicopter, the rescue team signaled to Mario that they had less than 2 minutes of fuel remaining to complete their mission. Physically exhausted, Mario still had to pull Ira's dad, sister Laura, and himself to safety. If he couldn't, the helicopter would be forced to return without them.
Okay, he looks tired, cold, and he looks like he's in pain. Give me a second, and I'll close the door and we start securing. Okay. Let's see on 30 now. It's success, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
1 year after their incredible rescue, we flew the Hubbard family back to Elizabeth City, North Carolina, to reunite them with the real-life heroes that had saved their lives.
Hi, how are you? Good. Nice to see you guys. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
We were so very far away, and without them we never would have survived. And I give them all my thanks.
I'm not sure what it is that about children, other than they haven't had the chance to realize how important their life is yet. And that struck me. It struck me hard. And he was going to get that chance.
Thank you.
The Coast Guard has been saving lives for over 200 years. Little Ira Hubbard is the youngest.
I look a little younger and I have a lot more hair, but it's pretty good. It's not the best quality, but there's a bunch of other ones done. We did so many interviews, and but I can't find them on there. I guess the big networks, keep it in their secret vault or something.
That's okay. You know what? I'm excited that we even have that one, and it just goes to show, like, one, how, like, when we talk about the crazy stuff that we go into as U.S. Coast Guard, that's crazy stuff that we go into. Yes, yeah, it's wild. So, there's one more thing I'd like you to touch on, and that's
sure.
In the award, it literally talks about waves breaking over, like, the deck of the carrier.
Yeah.
Most people don't understand or realize how high that deck really is off the sea.
Oh,
you're
it's
talking
way up there.
50 feet. And I'm exaggerating with 50 feet.
No, I always heard 70 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
70 feet from water level to the top of the deck. And now this thing, the carrier's taking such a big wave that it drops down into the trough and hits a wave, and the wave is coming onto the deck of the ship.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a tidal wave, but we had water coming over the bow, and
big enough.
And we're strapped out getting gas. It's like, that's pretty crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, don't flame out. All right, we
don't want to do that. No, we don't want to do that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it was pretty exciting. I mean, I was 33 at the time, so I'm like, hey, this is great. And think back at it, I'm like, well, that was pretty interesting. So I know.
Oh man. And that's like how we're gonna start this, because I'm gonna go right into the next one. We're gonna divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Switlik. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals, zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlik Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlik.com.
The next one, unless you've got anything else to touch on that one.
No. We got on that. But it's funny. That was like 32 years ago. Was that right? 93? Yeah, 32 something years ago. That's my math's wrong. But still exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I talk about this quite a bit. Like, it's interesting how we remember some of the fine details, even so, like, years later, because of how impactful that moment was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't tell you what I had for dinner 2 days ago, but I can tell you what happened 20 years ago vividly.
Wait till you're 65 and your mind starts going. It's like you got that short-term memory that's gone, but you got the long-term memory, like you said.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to hold on what I got right now. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, just do that. You're still young.
Try it.
Uh-huh.
All right. So then our next one, and this is 2 years later. So this is 1995. You earned yourself a Coast Guard Commendation Medal. And here's what this one says. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Medal to Lieutenant J.G. Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant J.G. Molthen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as co-pilot aboard the Coast Guard helicopter 6034 on the early morning of 24 January 1995. The aircrew was engaged in the rescues of a Coast Guard rescue swimmer and a sailor from the sailing vessel Mirage, 300 miles off the coast of Savannah, Georgia. The rescue swimmer was stranded when his helicopter's hoist failed during the perilous rescue attempt. The Mirage was caught in a severe winter storm with 20-foot seas and gale force winds. Lieutenant J.G. Molthen's precise navigation and minimum fuel calculations were essential to the successful completion of the extremely arduous, long-range, 9.5-hour rescue mission. He flew the aircraft through turbulence, blowing snow, and icing conditions en route to the scene. Arriving on scene, he observed the raft with the unconscious rescue swimmer inside being pounded by the seas. He acted as a safety pilot and provided critical safety backup as the aircraft commander completed the rescue. Lieutenant J.G. Molthen skillfully landed the helicopter aboard the USS Ticonderoga, pitching and rolling deck. After refueling and ensuring the rescue swimmer was properly cared for, he continued to perform his essential fuel calculations and flight planning en route to Mirage, 150 miles away. As the aircraft commander successfully completed the challenging no-reference hoist of Mirage's crewmen, Lieutenant J.G. Molthen once again acted as safety pilot, assuming radio communications and provided information on fuel consumption. His aeronautical skills, precise flight planning, and monitoring were instrumental in the rescue of a sailor and in saving the life of fellow Coast Guardsmen. Lieutenant J.G. Molthen's dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Holy
That's another
cow.
big one, yeah.
And as a commendation medal, like, okay,
I know.
All right.
I know. There's some, the medal system is like, it's hit or miss, but I don't do it for the medals. You just whatever they give you, take.
I say that all the time. We don't do it for the medals. We don't do it for the awards. We do it because we love what we do.
It is.
The accolades are great.
It.
And then, But this one in particular, which is interesting, Mike Odom was the rescue swimmer. He was left on scene because they couldn't recover him. And that's like, we talk about that as a swimmer going through rescue swimmer school, what mindset, what you have to be if you get left on scene. And, I've never talked to him personally. It's on my list. I've spoken. Let me rephrase that. I've spoken to him personally, but I'm trying to get him on the podcast.
Oh, he's a great guy. Well, I think Mario was with them on that case too. They brought 2 rescue swimmers.
Could have been. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know if you could see it, but that was well, you can't really see it all that great. That was Mike Odom and Mario, and it said missing Mike. I don't know if you can see it, and that was Jay Balder. They're walking back from the C-130 after they were coming back from Wilmington after with it. So that was a tough one for them, but that was a weird one. We got a call. I got a call like 2:00 in the morning, and that's not the call you want. Where it's like, hey, there's a rescue swimmer that Mike Odom, was left out at sea, and we're like, what? So we rushed down, get everything going, and. It was Bruce Jones was the aircraft commander who I flew with when I was in the Navy flight school, and he's probably the biggest reason I came in the Coast Guard. So, but that was an interesting one. Yeah, you get 2 a.m. Hey, Mike Odom's left out, and you're like, oh crap, that's when we joke around every once in a while, when we're getting ready for a search and rescue. But that was, man, we went in, the whole base was just going crazy at 2 or 3 in the morning, and everybody was very serious, and because the weather was crappy, and we had a C-130 out there, and Mark Russell, I think, was one of the aircraft commanders. He actually, I think, shut an engine down so they could stay out there. Matt Reed, I think, was involved with that. So the C-130 guys, they don't get much glory, but that night they flew around Mike low level with like an engine or two out so they could stay out there till another C-130 got there. So, wow. Yeah, so they, from what I hear, the whole crew was puking except for Mark. Of course, that was coming from him, but so the C-130 did a great job on that one. And they got us right out to him, that they kind of guided us right out there, said go, so it worked out good. But
so the way I understand it is Mike and his crew went out to respond to the vessel in distress.
Yes.
And then they got somebody in the helicopter, and then the hoist cable broke, and they had to leave them on scene. So they call you guys, but you still had to go help the vessel.
Yeah. Well, yes, afterwards. So we picked up Mike, which was really crazy because, we came on scene and he's just out there by himself in the raft, and he's not responsive. He's just laying there. So once again, I thought, we're going to pick up, a dead swimmer, which was really bad. But I keep going back to the very first, what was it? The Ahab and the whale. I forget. But Captain Ahab was on the whale after he tried to harpoon, and his arms going back and forth like that, and he's dead. And that's all I could think of. Yeah. So poor Mike's down there, and then I can't remember. I can't remember who the swimmer was. I keep thinking Mike Fish, but
So I'll tell you what, I do. And the only reason I do is because there's an article written about this in the U.S. Naval Institute.
Yes.
And the headline is 19. Talk to me.
Yeah.
And, it goes down. It talks about U.S. Coast Guard rescue swimmer Michael Oden dropped earlier from a helicopter, knows he's going to die. Alone, tossed by a winter storm in the Atlantic Ocean, 350 miles east of Savannah, Georgia, he lies exhausted after struggling to save 3 lives. Waves buffeted him repeatedly, cartwheeling him from the raft. Ingested salt water empties his stomach. His body is cramping after violent retching. His core temperature is approaching a fatal low.
Yeah, he tied himself to his raft just so he could find his body later, so we wouldn't have to search for it. He told me.
Oh my gosh!
I know. By the time we got there, he'd been passed out in the raft, and he wasn't getting tossed out anymore, which was, I don't know how, but
that's crazy. All right, so here it is. The rescue swimmer that went down to him, this is further in the article. Rescue swimmer Jim Peterson dropped down from Harverkin
great guy,
6034 into the raft with his friend Odom. Oh my gosh. Like, just the thought of that is wild.
Oh yeah. It was a pretty serious cockpit and aircraft when we were doing that. So
these feet were huge. They were 20 plus feet going down there.
They were big. They were knocking them around a lot. And Bruce did a great job flying. I was sitting in the left seat just trying to keep us out of the water and all that. But it worked out really. It worked out good because we got him. And once again, we brought him up, and we're not sure if he's dead or alive. And we get him up, pull him in, and then we got to get the swimmer. We got to get Peterson up there. So we had to wait for him to come up, and then they're like, okay, he's okay, but he's out. We need to get him to a ship. And once again, there's a destroyer out there or whatever, and it's like Bruce hadn't landed on a destroyer like that, so I had to land on it. Or did he land on it? Maybe I can't remember, but anyway, one of us landed on it, and they come out, they pull Mike out to go take him down to get him some medical help, and the whole helicopter left, and I was sitting there all by myself, and we got fuel and all that, and then finally everybody gets back, but we've been flying for so many hours. I'm like, I gotta pee, so I jumped out, and they're like, hurry up, we gotta go get them. So I go running in, I see Mike, I go, Mike, don't worry about it, we'll be back to get you in about 2 hours, and he's kind of out of it. He goes, okay, thanks, sir. And of course, we left him there. We couldn't come back because we didn't have gas. So we took off from the ship and then got the rest of the guys off the sailboat. And then we didn't have enough gas to get back to there. So we had to go to Wilmington, and we went to Wilmington and shut down, which is south of Elizabeth City. So 2 days later, when Mike came back, the Navy went out and picked him off the boat. I'm like, dude, sorry. I thought we were going to come get you back. He said, that's okay. So famous last words. Hey, we'll be right back. And then we just left him
right.
for 2 days. I'm like, sorry.
I shouldn't even laugh at that. It's terrible.
I know it is, but yeah, he's in good hands. But anyway, so then we got back, and then we saw the crew that had left him, and they were just beat. I know how they feel. That the hoist. I've had, I think in my career, 5 hoist malfunctions where the hoist broke pretty much.
It's a real thing. It is
a
very real thing.
It rubs up against stuff, and but anyway, so Mike finally came back to a hero's welcome, which he deserved. 2 days later, we're all out there. That worked out good. It's just when it's one of your own, it just really gets to you. So, and Mike was real good friends with Mario. So, and I think Mario was with him on that. They took 2 swimmers with him. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. So anyway.
Another question about that, right? So I totally understand, like, that is the main focus. Let's go get Mike out of harm's way. He got left on scene. But for you guys as the crew, you have to go back out to the vessel. That's, like, what was that like going back on scene? I mean, Mike's okay now, but your job's not done.
No.
Like, you still have the next step of the job to do, the next rescue.
And we don't have a lot of fuel to do it in either, so... We So we finally got out there. C-130 was over the vessel, so we found it pretty quick, and got most of the guys. I think the captain decided to stay with his boat too. We're like, okay, Captain, your turn, because they're jumping off the vessel, and the captain's like, nope, I'm going to stay with the boat. We're like, okay, and you give them like, this is your last chance. No one's coming out to get you next time. You're too far offshore. And I think he stayed on the boat. When you always want to have everybody off the boat because, and I don't know what happened to him, but he decided to stay. But we got the other 2 or 3, and when we landed with 9.5 hours on us. So, that was
9.5 hours.
Yeah, and you know how the seats aren't that comfortable. I mean, it's
and you only got one break to go take a leak.
I jumped out, and with that, I got long legs, so. The H3, I could stick my legs all the way out and put them on top of the rudder pedals to stretch them. But in the 60, I couldn't. I had the space between the rudder pedals. I had to stick one leg through, stretch it, then pull it back, put the other one, stretch it. Butt's hurting, It's like, anyway. But the job got done. Everybody lived. Mike lived. So it was great. It's just, just kind of, that was an eye opener.
Yeah.
And then we got a flight back in the C-130 from Wilmington to East City. That's only, I don't know, it's not that far, but they flew us back, and that was a wild night.
Man, I remember getting phone calls like 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're jumping on C-130 because you're going out to Deadhead out in the middle of the wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you're like, oh, great. But to get the phone call like, hey, we've got one of our own that's in a raft and they're 300 miles offshore.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just thinking about it right now, if I had that phone call right now, I would do everything in my power. Like, what I'm bringing the world with me. Like, let's go.
We did. Yeah, that's what we did. But you can bring the world, but you still got that little aircraft. Not little.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 4 or 5 of you in there. I mean,
right.
I think we might have taken an extra swimmer. I can't remember, but I think we did. Oh, I think we took Mario anyway. But so we had 2 swimmers with us, but Peterson was the one who did the work, and Mario helped out inside. So but you're still, there's only 4 or 5. It's you. It's just 5 people in an aircraft, 300 miles offshore, and then you're try to stay 100 feet off off the ocean. It doesn't always work that way, but but it is. It's it's just you guys. And that's what I'm so proud about the Coast Guard. We have such great training, such great people. You're out there with people that you trust with your life, and they're totally trained, and you're like, okay, let's go. We all have our own jobs to do, all separate jobs, and we all get it done. Like, it's very heartwarming to know that, you're out there with the best of the best.
Absolutely. I think about it from time to time, specifically because of Mike's case and the way they emphasized it in swimmer school is, with the U.S. Coast Guard rescue swimmers, there's one person that gets put down out of that helicopter crew.
Yeah.
And listen, I do not want to take away from any of my pilots, including yourself or the flight mechanics. They do an amazing job.
Oh, yeah.
But the dude that goes down, there's one of us. That's it. Like most of the other services that I know of, they're always sending like 2 or more people out at whatever. PJ's going in pairs. We're it.
Yeah.
So
no, it is. You're out there. If something happens, we can't get you back. And there's been cases where the swimmers wanted to go out, one in Alaska, you might touch on it. But we're like, no, you're not going out because we're not going to recover. We're not going to be able to recover you. We can't hardly, get these guys. So then, aircraft commander has 51% of the vote, but if it wasn't the swimmer, he'd go down every single time. Yeah. I don't know, brave, crazy, young, whatever. But
little bit of all of it, sir. All God's, oh no, you're not. I don't want to leave.
Come on, Dad. That's what about it was like. Or Grandpa. Towards the end, I was 51 years old, flying kids that were, I could have been their grandpa, which they let me know hilarious. Too. Yeah, but the training, just great people. And great machines, but. Of course, the people maintain the machines. That 60 is just an amazing aircraft.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Well, Dan, thank you for sharing that one.
No. It's funny because I hadn't heard, I haven't thought about a lot of this stuff in so long that I'm like, okay.
Well, I'm glad I can bring it up for you.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, bring it up, man. Bring it up.
All right. Well, let's go on to the next one. In 1997, you earned your second Distinguished Flying Cross.
Oh, that was when I was in Sitka.
So you get out of East City. When do you leave Elizabeth City?
1996.
Okay.
So I did 4 years in East City, then I went up to Sitka for 4 years.
Right on. And so when you get to Sitka, and I said like a year after you get up there. Okay.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
All right, well, here we go. Citation to accompany the award of the Distinguished Flying Cross to Lieutenant Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Molthen is cited for extraordinary achievement in aerial flight while serving as aircraft commander aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6042 on the night of 22 December 1997. The crew was engaged in a dramatic rescue of a survivor from a 36-foot fishing vessel, Callisto, that sank in an Alaskan gale 40 miles south of Sitka, Alaska. Lieutenant Molthen expertly navigated through 45-knot winds, 1/4 mile visibility, in blowing snow and sleet to the scene. The lone survivor was stranded in a life raft being blown towards treacherous, rocky coastline and pounding surf. As the helicopter approached the raft, it became clear that the severity of the turbulence would make maintaining a stable hover impossible. The 20-foot waves rebounded off the nearby rocks, causing a bubbly, confused sea state, which violently tossed the life raft as the crew struggled to deliver the rescue basket to the survivor. Brutal downdrafts from nearby cliffs repeatedly drove the helicopter down within 40 feet of the raging sea. Allowing the pilot to concentrate on delivering the rescue basket to the survivors, Lieutenant Molthen meticulously monitored the helicopter's altitude and routinely was forced to apply maximum power to prevent the helicopter from impacting the waves. Undaunted by the overwhelming conditions, Lieutenant Molthen implemented innovative rescue techniques one after the other, determined to save the imperiled mariner. After struggling in a consistent hover for nearly an hour, and with the survivor now only yards from the rocks, the crew meticulously delivered the rescue basket to the raft's entrance, allowing the survivor to leap into the rescue basket where he was hoisted to safety. Lieutenant Molthen's actions and aeronautical skills were instrumental to the successful rescue. His courage, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Holy cow, Dan.
Well, there's more to that story because there was a crew that went out before us to do the rescue and couldn't get them or didn't get them. So they came back. We were the second aircraft to go out there. And seriously, I mean, it's just a big wall of rocks going up. It wasn't a nice little beach and all that. It was just right there. And he was getting real close to it. So we tried to do a controlled approach to the water, a patch, but we almost flew into the mountain. I'm like, okay, we got to go back around. So we came back around, and then we just got down low so we can kind of see the water, probably 100 feet or so. And we just kind of came in close, and now we have a crosswind, but that was the only way we could do it. And as we're doing the crosswind, I was in the left seat. In Alaska, usually the aircraft commander sits in the left seat, and the other guy sits in the right and does the hoisting, because, we're both, seasoned pilots. Only send seasoned pilots, after one place. So I was in the left seat. So we finally get in position to the guy, and I'm looking up at the face of the rock wall right there, trying to get this guy before he crashes into the rock wall, the land. So Doug, he was over there. I can't remember his last name, but he's over there doing the hoisting, and the flight mech's doing a great job. And we're trying, but we just, it was just hard to do. And then finally, the flight mech puts it right in the entrance. It was a covered raft, right in the entrance of it, and the guy just rolled right out into it. And we're like, okay, we got him, picked him up, and we're like, oh, I'm like, let's just get away from this big mountain here. I don't want to fly into it. I don't want to get blown into it, because we were getting the heck beat out of us. Plus with a crosswind. Yeah, it was a crosswind. We couldn't do a headwind, because otherwise our tail probably would have been right into the rock wall. So yeah, we get and then we get them back. It's only 40 miles south, so we finally get back and land, and everybody's there. Hey, congratulations! This guy gets out. We have an ambulance waiting for him, and he goes, "I don't have any insurance," and he just runs away. We never saw him again. We're like, so I guess everything he owned was on that boat, and he just gets out and he just runs away, and we never saw him again, and then we're on an island. But yeah, it was kind of funny. I got no insurance. Boom, gone. Like, okay, you're welcome. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then they had a nice presentation with us. The commandant came up there, and he's pinning mine on. He goes, oh, the second one. He goes, I go, yeah. I don't really want another one. It's two DFCs is enough. 2 is too much. I mean, like, I'm done with the dangerous rescues. I don't, but anyway. So
yeah, or so you thought. So I thought.
But every time you go flying up out of Sitka, it's dark and rainy, and quarter-mile viz is not too bad, and so you just got to fly into it. So I had some pretty good other rescues up there too, but that was a pretty crazy one. It worked out, but that flight man put that thing right in the front of right at the entrance to that. And of course, the rescue swimmers put me in. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm not going to kill 2 people. No, why don't you hang out and take care of the guy when we get him back up? But God bless our rescue swimmers. But the flight mech, it was all him. And I wish I could remember his name. Great guy. Anyway, so it'll come back.
I actually, as a swimmer, I can totally understand why he would want to go in versus basket, and I understand why you would not want to put us in.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you understand that.
I believe me, I get both. For a guy that's on the hook like me, I feel like I can help, because I can manipulate. I can turn. If you drag fins or stuff through the surf. Like, once I get to the raft, I can grab it. So you have a capable person on the end of the hook.
Yeah.
But 20-foot waves on the edge of a cliff, that's a scary place to be. And I get it. I get both sides, I promise.
Yeah. And I don't even know if we had that. God, when did it come out that we had the direct deployments? Because when I first came in, we didn't have direct deployment. I don't know if we had the direct deployment back in 93.
Okay. Or
no, 90. When was it? 97. So I'll have to go back, but I don't know if we had that in our arsenal, the direct deployment, where we could keep you guys on. You're sitting on there. We just had the hoist. That'd be a good thing to look into.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that. Something else, though, is, like, at that time, the swimmers were still using like the SAR-1 the, whatever it was, and it was just like the horse collar. So they're going down.
They're
not. Yeah, they're still up in the upper chest now. You would send me down. I'm in a full body harness. Like I'm reaching. I'm like,
oh no, you can swim in that thing and everything. Before it's just either just a hook or the rescue strap. Right. So. But anyway, so we got him up there. It's just Tyler Jennings. That's it. Got it. Flight mech Tyler Jennings. Right. Mine is a terrible thing, but anyway, great guy. Just put it right in front. We got him, because I'm like, we can't get this guy. We're gonna have to go back. So, but that was after another crew tried, and we just lucked out and got him, and we didn't die and fly into something.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the things I actually find interesting, especially in like the award write-up, like you're getting blown from it, and I talk about this from time to time. The winds that come off like a mountain or something, and the downdraft will literally push like you don't have any power left. I mean, you sit there, you're pulling max power. That's it.
Yeah, and that's what's great about the 60. We had a ton of power, which saved my butt a bunch of times, but. Yeah.
As a pilot, though, you're taking a crosswind, which is already like not good for you because you want to be in that headwind, and you're taking the downdrafts through the main rotors. Man,
we were all. Wow. It's tough. It was tough. Yeah, it was blowing us around. Yeah, but you don't think about, hey, what if we end up? We're gonna end up in the water. That's not in my. You don't really think about that till after. You're like, let's just stay out of the water.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea not to be in the water.
Do you remember, and I know I'm going to get into really fine detail, do you remember how high you were doing the hoist? And I asked that because it was blowing you guys down to like 40 feet off the waves.
Yeah, I think we were trying about 100 feet, but you don't have radar altimeter, you don't have rad alt hold, you can't really set, hey, I'm going to stay at 100 feet, push the button, go, hey, I'm going to stay at 100 feet because the waves are coming up 40 feet, and otherwise you'd be like, bloop, 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 bloop. So you got to manually fly it, and so I think we were probably trying about 100 feet to stay out of the water, and that came into a SAR case I did later where we tried that and it didn't work out too well. But anyway, I think it was 100 feet, and you're going from 100 to sometimes 120, 30 down to 40 feet, it's just up and down. But it's pretty hairy.
I'm thinking about your flight mechanic right now, like your flight mech. Like he is literally having to adjust that cable everywhere at 100 feet and try to put it inside of for people that don't know, the size of the opening to a raft is only about 3 feet by 3 feet, maybe 4 by 4. It is not big.
And that guy will just roll into
the basket in it. Boom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's impressive.
When you're hoisting, that the pilot can't see below him. He can't see the rafter, and so that the flight mech's the one going forward, forward and right, back and left, like trying to keep you over it. And he's not, I know in the back of his mind, there was one flight mech, Dorsey Jor, I don't know if you know him, great guy, but he would always just get mad at me, and he's like, "Come on, sir, come on over this." But we're close friends. But he was just, he got it through it. But it's just it must be frustrating for the flight mechs. It's like, come on, get over I told you to stay still. You're over here now, and now he's on the other side. So the flight mechs use great restraint when talking to the pilot sometimes because why isn't this guy listening to me? But anyway, that was a good case that worked out real well. Could have ended up differently. Yeah, they just did have that crash, I guess, a year ago up in Sitka where they ended up on a beach, which is bad. And I hope the swimmer. I heard the swimmer was hurt pretty bad. I hope he's.
So get this. I saw a video of him back at it. So a picture of him in the hospital bed after the crash, and then just after that, back squatting 315 pounds.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like. Solid.
You go. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm beyond pumped for him. So excited.
No, it is great when you hear that. It's nice when people survive. They had that big crash up in Utah that one time. That was close friends of mine from our unit. So you remember that one that they were flying back from I think the West Coast, someplace in Seattle, and they ended up crashing. They up in the mountains of Utah.
Rolling down. Yeah,
they and then crashed. So those were all friends of mine, and they survived it. But
Pat Shaw was one of the pilots.
Yeah, Pat. Yeah, he was.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Super good guy. Him and I were stationed in Kodiak together, and we had a couple rescues and stuff that we did up there, and a lot of great training flights. But him and I would play basketball together all the time.
Oh yeah, he's
very good. Excellent athlete. Oh my God. Yeah. Phenomenal athlete. So
great guy, but things happen. We're all have been in crashes or got real close to crashes.
Yeah.
So,
Nature of the beast, right?
No, it is. I graduated from the Naval Academy, right? 3 guys died in flight school. 3 of my classmates died in flight school, and then 7 others after that in helicopter, in plane crashes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's a lot safer now than it was back in the 80s, but yeah, so it's like, yeah, oh, Bobby's dead. Oh, well, that sucks. And, you know, as a kid, hey, let's have a beer and do that, you know. Now going back and thinking about it, it's like, man, what a waste of, not a waste of life, but it's tough. But that's the nature of our, aviation is inherently dangerous, and you know, it's not if, it's when there's going to be another accident. We just got to be as safe as possible, train as much as possible, and do that. So.
Yep. Agreed. Dan, thank you so much for sharing that. Again, Mike, congratulations on earning a second Distinguished Flying Cross.
Yeah.
I've got one, so I understand where it is. I do. I am part of that club, but I've got one, and I'm good with one.
Oh, yeah.
I understand what you're saying with done with 2.
Yeah, done. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Incredible. So well done. Well done. So I'm going to bring us to another one. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
In 1998, you earned yourself a Commendation medal, and this is what this one says.
That's funny because I don't know what you're gonna read. I'm thinking which one was it? But go ahead.
I love the fact that you just said that. It's so true. All right. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Medal, Gold Star in lieu of second to Lieutenant Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Molthen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as pilot of Coast Guard 860 helicopter 6018 on the night of 30 January 1998. Caught in a fierce winter storm with wind gusts up to 70 knots and seas 50 to 70 feet. The fishing vessel LeConte sank 50 miles off Cape Fairweather, Alaska, leaving the crew huddled together in the sea with no life raft. Lieutenant Molthen launched immediately in response to the LeConte's emergency radio beacon. Lieutenant Molthen skillfully piloted 120 miles through blinding rain, hail, and severe turbulence. Passing over the emergency beacon at 300 feet, Lieutenant Molthen flew a sector search pattern with remarkable precision, maintaining his orientation and aircraft control, while compensating for the high winds and incredible turbulence generated by the mountainous waves below. After locating the survivors, Lieutenant Molthen fought to maintain hover altitude and continuously maneuvered the aircraft in response to conning commands from both the flight mechanic and the aircraft commander. In spite of rapid 30-degree pitch and roll inputs, a stationary hover proved nearly impossible as violent blasts of wind tossed the helicopter back and down, while the rescue basket sailed wildly 150 feet behind the aircraft. Lieutenant Molthen's superb reactions and intense concentration saved the aircraft from impacting several rogue waves and placed the basket within reach of the terrified survivors on several occasions. After hoisting for over an hour, the Coast Guard crew was forced to depart the scene due to critically low fuel. 2 hours after returning from his rescue attempt, Lieutenant Molthen again manned Coast Guard 6018 and proceeded to the scene to continue rescue efforts, which eventually saved 3 mariners. Lieutenant Molthen's dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Oh my gosh, Dan.
Yeah, that was a crazy night. That, these awards, they tell you, but they don't tell the whole story. I mean, it was that was a crazy one. It started kind of benign, we're like, okay, EPIRB out there, weather at Sitka wasn't too bad. Well, it wasn't too bad for, how Alaska, it's like, yeah, it was 40 knots and, 300-foot overcast. So it's like, it's not too bad. Let's go. And it snowed, but man, we turned the corner, started going out in there in the Gulf of Alaska or whatever, the fair weather grounds. And man, it just started picking up more and more and more, and we're flying out there just getting the heck beat out of us, and we have our swimmer and our flight mech, and we don't know what to expect. It's just an EPIRB. So we're about 300 feet. We're in the goo. Can't see anything. Winds, I'm like, man, the computer's saying the winds are like 60, 70 knots now. And they just kept getting bigger. So we fly right over the EPIRB, but can't see anything. And we had such a huge tailwind. It was like, boom, we were just over it. Like, whoop, there it is. But it's gone. So we actually just turned around. And then now we got this huge headwind, so we're going real slow. We came down to about 150 feet, and I saw in the water just a group of people, with the reflective tape just from our, lights and stuff. But it's still snowing and raining and hailing and just blowing the hell out of us. And so we came up to them, and it didn't take much because we had such a huge headwind. We just kind of slowed down, and then all of a sudden they're there. And there was 5 guys in the water, just getting the heck pummeled out of us. And of course, the swimmer's like, "I want to go." I'm like, "No, we're not. Sorry, it's Rich Sandstone, great guy. You're not going. No, it's not tonight. That's not your night." So we try to, we're like, okay. We went through all the checklists, and it was just so rough. I'm just sitting there trying to do that. Bill Addix, who's actually the aircraft commander's in the left seat, he's going through all the checklists, and it's tough in the left seat because you really can't see much. All you see is black and maybe a wave here and there. So anyway, long story short, we're hoisting.
No, wait.
Basket's going back.
Make this long story long. Go into all the details, all right?
And I looked down, and it's telling us what the airspeed is outside. It was said 99 knots. I'm like, boy, I've never seen that before. So. The computer figured it was 99 knot winds. I'm like, well, I'm feeling it right now. So we put the basket out. It goes straight back. And I'm like, oh, shoot, it's going to get wrapped around the tail because the winds were so heavy. So finally, what do we do? Do we stick? I don't know. But so we kept trying and trying and trying, and it's tiring. And the flight mech's doing all the work. We're in dry suits. So, all that work in the dry suit, you're sweating and all that. So the flight mech, this is kind of the funny part of it. The flight mech is starting to feel bad. So we're like, let's take a break. And I had my lucky water bottle. I don't know if you remember the Gateway computer. It looked like cow skin on its white with plastic. Yeah. I said, here, give him some water. So he gets my lucky water bottle, gets it up, and he throws up all over my water bottle. So So that's what I say. It's like, so that was not my lucky water bottle anymore. I don't think I ever saw that one again. So, but then, God bless him. He keeps on going, he's sick, dehydrated, just, and so finally we're trying, I finally, okay, begin the hoist. He goes, okay, forward and right, 50. And I start going in, and I see the guys, they're going away from me. So I'm going into him to go, okay, I got to go. Well, I wasn't watching him going away from me. I was watching him coming up the side of a wave. So I wasn't looking down like this. I was looking over here, but it just seemed, since I couldn't see anything, it was just so black, just my searchlight. Goggles were useless. They were actually going up the side of a wave. I'm here. They're going up the side of a wave. And then all of a sudden they disappear. And I find out later, I'm like, where the hell did they go? They went over the top of the wave, and I was looking up at them. So the wave starts coming down. The flight mech goes into shock. He curls up in a ball and goes into shock because he's, so physically and mentally just gone. And our rescue swimmer, all I heard from the back, not even over the ICS, I heard him audibly, up, up, up. And Bill and I just yank up, and I see the tip of the wave. I can laugh about this now. I see the top of the wave coming down, and I'm like, that thing's going to nail us. And so we come up, and it probably hit our tail wheel or maybe even our other wheel because we were that close. So we were supposed to be at 100 feet. This wave came, and next thing you know, we're, coming back above the wave. So that wave had to have been, I think, 100 feet because we were trying 100 feet. Of course, we're going 100 feet to 150, 60, down to 40, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden that wave almost nailed us. So, and we left it. We're getting a little low on fuel, but now our flight mech is in shock. our swimmer is now doing his EMT stuff on our flight mech. And Bill, I'm just like, we can't go on. Maybe we get to swim. We're done. So, and in the meantime, we had lost contact. We had lost our guard on the FM radio. So we'd been on our own for about an hour with no contact with anybody. And
so that's a big deal for people that don't understand and know. We do a check-in every 15 minutes to let everybody know that we're still airborne and we're okay. So it's like ops normal and position is blank, whatever it is. But that's it. If you don't get that call, they're launching another helicopter thinking we went in. Oh, yeah.
Well, what happened, too, was there was a civilian an airliner flying, up there at 30, 40,000, however high they saw. And they actually heard us somehow on the radio. I don't know what, but they had heard that we were in the water. So now, we haven't talked to anybody. The airline's like, I think I heard them that they're in the water or something. The C-130 we're still waiting on the C-130 from Kodiak, which was a whiles away. So, I mean, we talk about being out there by yourself in horrible weather. That was us. And everybody thought we were dead or we were gone.
Wow.
So now Sitka, they start loading up a second helicopter to come get us out of the water to see what the hell happened. So we decided to call it off and we start flying back. And it was a pretty good headwind. So, it took a while to get back, and we failed our mission. We just felt real bad. And so we're flying back and I'm just thinking, I'm like, I am never flying again. I don't know. Montana came up. I'm like, I'm moving to Montana. The family wants to go. I think that's about as far away from water as I could get. I don't know. This is just crazy. I mean, I don't want to do this anymore. I got my buddy in the back, he's in shock. I don't know if he's going to die, and we're just, so we fly back and then we land. Oh no, as we're flying back, a second helicopter with Dave Durham and, Russ Zulik, I think it might've been, came, and another crew coming out to find us. We're like, hey, they're like, hey, you're alive. This is awesome. I'm like, nah, it's not so awesome, man. And we told them what to look for. I said, you got 5 guys in the water out there and it's just horrible. We almost got nailed by a wave and basket's not functioning properly because it's too windy. And so they went out and tried and they failed too. They couldn't get anybody out of the water. So now we come back and we're landing and they got the third helicopter. We only have 3 helicopters and it was just lucky that we had them all up. They're ready to go out. And that was Captain Lefevre, Steve Torpy, Fred Kalt, and I can't remember. They had 2 swimmers with them, but they're getting ready to go. And we're like, dudes, you got to bring some flares, bring a buttload of flares, bring some weights to stick in the basket, And so they and then they took off, and I'm like, okay, I'm done, man. I'm moving to Montana. I'm done. So they take off, and Bill and I walk up. In the meantime, they're taking our flight mech off in an ambulance. That was a first for me. Well, except for, I guess, some Odom one. But anyway, so he takes off in an ambulance. We don't know if he's alive or dead or whatever. And the swimmer's like, I'm not flying. I think he ended up flying some more, but the swimmer ended up going officer, and he became I don't know what he became. But anyway, so Bill and I walk up, and the guy Pierce was up there. He was the only guy. He had been out that night, and he had some drinks, so he couldn't fly. But he's the operations officer there doing everything. So he goes, hey, we need you guys to go back out.
Holy shit.
No, I'm moving to Montana. No way. Never been there. And we're like, and so the swimmer wasn't going to go back, flight mech, obviously. So Bill and I, because, hey, when we're working on the aircraft, when it's ready to go, we need you to go. And of course, I said, okay, we'll go. And we're, physically just and mentally just exhausted, but we're the only 2 pilots left. We found a flight mech and we found 2 swimmers to go with us. So we loaded up while the other aircraft is coming back they got 3 out of the 5 guys. And that's a whole nother story, man, because, they're hoisting up the survivors in their survival suits. And Fred Kalt, I was talking to him. He says it was so weird because the basket was kind of sideways when it was coming out. I'm trying to pull it into the aircraft, but it's leaning way over, and the survivor's like leaning on the overside. The survivor was grabbing on to his buddy, I think he might have been dead already. He was doing that. So as Fred pulls it, he finally it comes in and he sees the face of the guy on the outside that his buddy was holding the guy. Yeah. He was on the outside and he fell away, back in the ocean. Oh. Yeah. So that was a tough one. So they got 3 out of the 5. The one guy just disappeared, and the other guy, once he flew in, they tried to get him. They couldn't get him. So we went back out to get after this other guy. So that's what they told us when we passed. And we're like, oh, this is going to suck. So we get out there, and, Bill and I are talking together. Now, Bill and I have switched seats. He's in the right seat. We're like, okay, we're at 150 feet. Maybe let's come down to 125. Let's come down to 100. And finally, I think it was one of the rescue swimmers goes, hey, sir, didn't you guys get hit by a wave when you were at 100 feet last time? We're like, oh, yeah. He goes, why don't we just go home? We're like, all right, we're out of here. He took off. No, because we're at 100 feet. We can't see him. And, and it's like, this guy is more than likely dead. If we try this again with an exhausted pilot and co-pilot, it's just not good. So I think it was a good crew. But the one swimmer in the back, he said it. And we're like, okay. And we flew back. And the next day, I guess Kodiak came down and picked up the one guy who was obviously, he had passed. But the 5th guy who disappeared, he floated up from Sitka all the way up to near Kodiak. And some hunters found a survival suit in a bear cave with a toe in it. And that's how they figured out it was this guy. He floated all the way up there, got on the beach, bears got him, took him, and ate him. So, it's a fact. There's 2 books written about it. So,
I was actually going to touch on that as well, because the 2 books.
It was a fascinating case, for not getting anybody. But I was okay with that because a lot of time, I was still kind of bummed out that it failed. But like, man, dude, we did everything we could do. And I remember that, I came home, probably 7 or 8 in the morning. The kids, I don't even think the kids were up yet. And my wife, I was just sitting there. I don't know how long I sat on the bottom of those stairs. She goes, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, come on. I guess I'm all right. But, that was very traumatic. Mentally and, going out there twice. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so we got debriefed, and we were out flying a day or 2 later. The flight mech, he survived. I don't know. He might have flown once or twice, but he transferred up to Kodiak and flew C-130s, which I can't blame him. I can't imagine what he went through back there. I know what I went through, and he went through a hell of a lot. Trying to get that basket out there and moving around and throwing up on my lucky water bottle. So. But anyway, I know. Yeah, it's so funny how things stick in your mind. Yeah, we almost died by a wave, but I lost my lucky water bottle. So, yeah, and then they came in and wrote. 2 guys came up there and wrote 2 books about the case, and that was kind of fun.
And the books are these. It's called The Last Run by Todd Lewin.
Yeah,
Lewin. Sorry, Todd Lewin.
Yeah,
and then the next one, which I'm excited about this one, is It's Coming Back Alive by Spike Walker. And I had an opportunity to meet Spike and actually
he's a great guy.
An autograph for the book. Yeah. And super nice guy. And he's telling the story. He's like, man, I got to talk to all these guys. And I remember reading the book. I'm like, holy shit. And then
that's his third book.
That was a Commendation medal. Again, we don't do it for the awards. We don't do it.
Yeah, I know.
They're nice. But you're like, really?
Yeah. So Spike's a great guy, and he's got street cred too, because once he graduated with his journalism degree from wherever, he ended up going up to Alaska and fishing. And I think his first book was Working on the Edge or something about fishing up in Alaska. So he had some street cred, but just a nice guy. We kind of adopted him when he came down. He ate Easter with us, and just a great guy. I actually should get in contact with him if he's still around. I don't know. But and then the Todd Lewin, the first one came up. And we helped him out too a lot. He came in and interviewed. He's a young guy, not an Alaska guy. He's a city boy, and he wrote a 6-part Associated Press article on the whole case, which was good. That case even ended up in Playboy. Did it really? What? Yeah, Playboy wrote an article. It was so funny because there's a picture of the crew in Playboy of the crew that got him, Steve Torpy and Fred Kalt. And his mother and Fred's mom had taken the pictures of him, of it at a meeting or whatever, to have all the whole crew. So he always joked that Fred Kalt's mom was in Playboy. Fred Kalt's mom's pictures were in Playboy, and they were. She took all the pictures. But Fred's a great guy too. But I know. There's some funny
that's
things that
funny.
come up. Yeah, but this Todd Luan wrote that article, but right before it was going to get published, and it was with his publisher and whatever and rewriter, he got a real bad accident skiing, and he broke his leg and was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So the publisher or whatever kind of rewrote some things. So I was up in Sitka, and I get a call from Guy Pierce, Guy. He was down in Mobile. He had just left Alaska. He goes, Dan, you got to get this article. Read the first part of it. I'm like, why? He goes, you just got to read it. So I got it online somehow. I read it like Lieutenant Molthen hoisting was dizzy and retching. I'm like, whoa, I wasn't dizzy and retching. I was hoisting. That was the flight mech. He was getting a little dizzy. I'm like, all right. And then the second half comes out like the next day or a couple of days later, and I get another call from Guy. He goes, Dan, you got to read it again. Part 2. And I'm like reading it, and it goes, Lieutenant Molthen vomited in his lap while hoisting. And I'm like, oh my God, he got it all wrong. And so, of course, after that in Sitka, I had all sorts of great nicknames like, Bags or Vomit Boy or Barf Man. Like, even the CO got in it. He called me Bags for a while. So, but then Todd, I called him. I'm like, Todd, what happened? He goes, dude, and he told me how he got sick. He goes, don't worry, I'm writing a book and I'll get it all straightened out. And he did, and he got it out. But yeah, it's just, you got to just laugh that stuff off. That happens. So, but that was a huge search and rescue case, but it didn't get out there real fast because it's Alaska. We didn't have video of it, and what happens in Alaska. And I've done cases up there, where you should get DFCs and air medals, which you get a good slap on the back or email notification of superior performance from your ops boss. Dave Curran used to do that. He just typed and go, hey, good job. So we call it email notifications of superior performance. Yeah. But anyway,
Thank you.
So yeah. Hey,
a high five, a thumbs up, pat on the back. Well done.
Yeah.
All right.
Via email. Yeah.
Go to work.
Yeah. So, but that was a huge, that took a lot from the whole the crews, the air station, everybody just really got it going, to get 4 aircraft up and going. And, but probably the best decision I made that night was, turning around after the crew goes, hey,
sure.
And the guy who was 99.999%, passed away anyway after falling from the aircraft, and he was full of water anyway. So,
yeah,
but it still wears on you. It's like,
the what if, the could I have, could we have? Yeah.
And one of the survivors was my neighbor. He was a retired Coast Guard warrant officer, and he worked at the base. He was my neighbor. He lived in housing, and then when he retired, he had a little bit of substance abuse problems. He started going out on fishing boats, and he's one of the guys on the boat. And he, from his Coast Guard experience, helped probably save all 3 of those guys, 3 out of the 5 of them. But but he was on the boat. I knew him. So
what a trip!
Everything's so tied together. I know that was a huge one. That was a rough one, but I was at peace with it because I felt like I could do everything. We did everything we could, and the situation was just so bad that it just didn't work out, which, doesn't always happen.
I mean, and I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that part of the story, because again, I don't, or at least I don't remember it from the book, is knowing that last guy floated way up north and then a bear got him.
Yeah.
That's
I think
crazy.
I think Spike's book, one of them opens up with that. So yeah,
okay.
Well, you can read the award, but there's so.
Damn it.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he didn't. I got the book around here sometime. Anyway,
it's all good.
Yeah, it is. But it's just you get the awards, you read the awards. It's like, yeah, that's cool. But getting into what actually happened, and you might talk to Bill Addicks at Violet. He might say something different, but at least that's the way I see it.
That's all that matters right now. Is just the way you see it.
Yeah, exactly. So I apologize to everybody if I kind of enhance my
No way. That's what makes a good story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm good at the story. I'm glad my wife's not here. She'd be like, God, I heard that story 1,000,000 times. So, and she's awesome. She's put up with a lot. She's put up with a lot. When I was in Sitka, I lived right next door to Jim O'Keefe. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Nope.
Yeah, I think he's got 1 or 2 DFCs, and then Dan Madison was across the way. Yeah, so I had all my buddies right there. She's like, "Oh my God, all your buddies are like right next door." I'm like, "Yeah, isn't that great?" She's like, yeah. So anyway, yeah. She goes, "Yeah, I just love having your buddies all barge in all the time." But anyway,
gosh. But
living in housing was pretty interesting. With all
it's never a dull moment in housing.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never a dull moment. You're like, you come out the back porch. Hey, yo, what are you cooking over there? I got extra steaks. I'm bringing them over.
Yeah, the only problem is you go tell your buddies, God, we had a rough SAR case last night. And they're like, yeah, so have I. So who cares? Yeah. So you drink and laugh, and that's it. So, but
oh my gosh, I'm gonna bring this up right now. Just kind of touch on that a little bit. That was the way to do it. Is you come back from a big mission, you roll up to your buddy's house, which is 2 doors down, pour a drink, and be like, bro, this is what just happened to me. And they're like, that was our debrief method. That was our coping. That was everything that helped us get to the next so we can get back in the air.
Yeah, and then you suck it up. You just don't think about it. Bill Axe was funny because he goes, yeah, Dan, there's a 3-day rule. He goes, first day after a bad SAR case or after something bad happens, you're going to be a mess. The second day after, you start getting a little better. Third day, you're done. After that, you go back to the way you were. So just, I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. It works sometime. But then obviously later on, I had some issues with some other stuff. But that's how we used to do it. And what the best thing we could have done was probably just sit there and talk it out. Not over alcohol, just talk it out. And then if your buddy goes, dude, you need some more help, maybe you should go see somebody. And we do have the EAP, whatever, the phone number you can call and you can get some help, which I used later on. But, when I was up there, I was like, nah, man, you don't do that. You just suck it up and go on. So,
because that was the mentality. And that was. But at the same time, like everybody was debriefing and getting it off their chest by going to your buddy's house. And then I actually remember going to like one guy's house, one of my boys, and I ended up telling them the story. And then like the next day I'm at another buddy's house. Tell me the story. And I'm telling it again. Yeah. So it was just a way to talk about it. Yeah.
That is good for you. Yeah. But you can always see, we had the CISM, the critical incident stress, whatever. We had that afterwards. And I've had a lot of them. You could always tell the one guy or gal who's having problems with it, because the debriefer's up there, he's talking, this is what you should feel. And you can always tell who it was. And so I'd always go after, I guess, if you need some more help, no, I'm okay, sir. Until the one case we'll probably go over later where I was the dude that needed help. So, but we did as friends, you talk it over and that does help, but there's always somebody who's not processing it a little bit more because, their trauma is what we go through, mental traumas. And we see stuff that 99.99% of people don't see. And then we react to it. And usually it's a normal reaction to a real abnormal circumstance. It's normal to feel bad. It's normal to, do all that. But once you get to the nightmares and all that stuff, then it's like, okay, I need help.
Yeah.
So, but I think more and more people are doing it now. It's not like when we were in, it's, you suck it up and all that. So,
I got to give credit to my shop chief and senior chief. So I had Olaf Lavelle and George Cavallo when I was in Kodiak.
I know them both. Great guys.
And they were very adamant in both the rescues that I had that and the DFC specifically, like that rescue, they talked to me multiple times. Just, hey man, how you doing? You doing all right? Yeah. No,
that's what you gotta do.
Yeah. And they were constantly jumping in. I think they actually talked to some of the other guys, like the first guys, Bob Watson, for example. And
Bob's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine.
And they all come up to me. Hey, you doing all right? Tell me a little bit. Like, how you feeling? And it was that. But so they were very in tune with all of that. That was my time. So.
Oh, the rescue swimmers, I think they have more of a brotherhood. You guys have more of like a brotherhood that gets around you. The pilots, we do have a brotherhood, but we're more, we're not as in tune with other people's feelings. I hate to say that, but that's what I always really liked about you swimmers. You guys really stuck together. And if one guy was down, you'd help him out. We're, pilots, we were a little bit, not as much, we're more of a suck it up crowd, which didn't work out. Now you guys suck it up a lot too, but it's just, I love your brotherhood. I'm real close friends with Butch Flight and Bob, so, they're always going to different things and, so it tells me, man, I wish we had that, but we got something like that, but not like you guys have.
No, it's again, for me, it's that the whole debrief, being able to talk about it. And I encourage it here all the time. Like if you're struggling, you call me, just call me.
Exactly.
Like, I will listen. I just want to hear it. Just talk about it. Like what's bothering you? Like what's your hang up with it? And Hi. Yeah. And actually, I've had guys come on this like podcast and be like, man, this is like therapy.
Oh, I know. When I gave my speech at the Verticon about are you fit to fly? It's all about mental health and pilots, and aviators. One guy came up to me afterwards. He goes, man, I wish I had known this stuff when I was flying. I probably would have flown more. One guy who's an alcoholic came up to me, and said, hey, thank you for talking about that. And, and this and that. I go, I wish it's just impressive how many people have this problem. I think every aviator has seen stuff they're not supposed to see, and we internalize it, and but it's good to have friends to talk to, and then if that doesn't work, you take the next step, you talk to a therapist, and then the next step you go see a psychiatrist, and so anyway, but I'm glad it's getting better, because back in the day, man, you should have seen it back in the mid 80s. Oh God, you showed no weakness, you go, I don't really feel bad about this. Just then they'd laugh at you. Here, have a drink, have a scotch. It's like, all right, that'll help. But now I think we're coming along. We can still go, we can still do better, but I think the whole situation's better now with mental health and aviation.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
And again, my personal thought about it like the hard work that we all put in to get to the point where we're standing duty, we're on call. Yeah. You work so hard to get to that point. Yep. To have a tough case or a tough incident where all of a sudden you're not processing well, you're having a hard time. You don't want to come to somebody because you're afraid to lose your wings. You're afraid to get grabbed. Everything you've worked for your entire career to that point, and then they're like, yeah, by the way, you can't fly anymore. Yeah. Why would I say anything? I want to fly. Like, yeah. So there's
if you have a cold, even if you have a cold, you don't want to go. It's like, I'm not going. I'll get grounded.
Right. Yeah.
And your sinuses explode the aircraft or something. It's like, yeah, that was worth it. But one of the guys at Verticon, he was having a bunch of problems, flying, and he got help. I mean, he was in bad shape. You probably met him. I don't want to mention names, but great guy. But he just, as a pilot, saw a lot. Actually flew with my son-in-law. They're good friends, and did the right thing. He got the help, and I don't know. He's not flying right now, but he still got it. It's bad things could have happened. We've all had friends who've have done things they shouldn't have done, but anyway. But I'm glad it's working. So, but and I did experience it later, which I'm sure you're going to talk about later.
We'll get there.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
We're not quite there yet.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm like, I'm not bringing these other SAR cases up because I'm sure he's going to bring it. He's got them all right there.
I've got.
I'm like,
I totally do.
I think you
know what? Let's bring us into the next one.
Oh, 1999. I'm ready for the next one.
We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors. Ready Bar, originally made for astronauts, now designed for first responders and built for you. This high-performance meal bar provides complete nutrition without the sugar crash. A must-have for any helmet bag, swimmer bag, or everyday pack. Get yours today at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. Ready Bar. Zero crash, all fuel. You're still in Sitka. You earned yet another Coast Guard Commendation medal, and here's what this one said. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Medal, Gold Star in lieu of third, to Lieutenant Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Molthen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as aircraft commander of Coast Guard 860 Rescue Helicopter 6018 on the night of 9 January 1999. The crew was engaged in a rescue of 7 survivors from the 110-foot ocean tug Sea Vixen, which was on fire 100 miles west of Yakutat, Alaska. Lieutenant Molthen expertly navigated through zero visibility, rain, snow, and icing conditions to reach the scene. The 7 crew members huddled behind the smoke-filled pilot host were unable to abandon ship for fear of the tug's tow would run over their raft. The crew's only chance for survival was to remain on board the burning vessel and be hoisted into the helicopter. Due to a steering casualty, the Sea Vixen was unable to hold course into the 15-foot waves, forcing the aircrew to attempt each hoist from an extremely demanding downwind hover. In addition, the hoist effort was severely complicated by whiteout conditions from blowing snow, turbulence, and smoke from the intense fire. When the pilot at the controls lost all visual reference in the snow squall while hovering only a few feet above the tug's swaying mast and antennas, Lieutenant Molthen meticulously monitored the helicopter's instruments, kept the visual reference of the seas and the stern of the vessel with the night vision goggles, and conned the pilot back into position from which he could maintain the visual reference with the tug. After a tense 40 minutes hover over the stricken vessel, all 7 survivors were hoisted to safety. Lieutenant Molthen then took the controls from the exhausted pilot who flew through icing conditions and poor visibility and performed a demanding low visibility approach and landing into Yakutat. Lieutenant Molthen's dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
I almost forgot about that one.
I cannot get enough of this stuff. I just so you know that.
that was a crazy one too. I mean, yeah, it's just like it said. I mean, we got out there and it's just, I mean, the thing's burning. All 5. How many more guys were there?
7,
5 or 7?
7 guys.
7. They're all up on top of the bridge, just sitting there while their boat's spinning in circles, and it's it's smoke coming out from below the thing, and they're just like, okay, we're done here. And we got on seeing it's spinning, so we kind of had to follow it around. So that's when we go like headwind to tailwind. And Bob Yerkes was a co-pilot, but he was in the right seat hoisting. I was in the left since I was the aircraft commander, and it was just crazy. I mean, just the blowing snow, and Bob did a great job going around. And then every once in a while we'd lose it. And I go, we got it over here, and we'd get over there. But it was a great, we got those guys up fast. I mean, it was like boom, 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 boom. I wish I could remember the flight mech and rescue swimmer's name, but we weren't going to put the swimmer down on it, obviously. But yeah, we got him up real quick, and then we had to fly back to Yakutat. And we're not going to fly an instrument approach in there, so it was real low. So we kind of got. Yeah, we got to the beach. I might be mixing stories up, but we got to the beach, kind of flew down the beach, and we knew there was a runway like 270, and there was a tack in there in VOR. So we're like, okay, let's just fly down the beach at 50 feet, and then when it lines up, when the instruments line up to 270, we'll turn and we'll start going towards the runway that we hope is and so we're going from treetop to treetop, trying not to get back up in the goo. Going, okay, the runway has to be here pretty soon. And it was a big runway. It was an old World War II place, Yakutat. And then we finally I'm like, that must be it. It's just, big white, snowy, flat spot. I'm like, that must be the runway. So we got down there, and then we got to actually taxi in. So that's how we got into Yakutat. And then we're like, oh, crap. And Yakutat's just a small little place up there.
Yeah,
and then you pull up. Hey, you've been there. Food, booze, fuel, and you have to... You have to pull up to the gas pumps, and So we got in there and got all the guys off of there. But that's one of those ones that it was huge, but nobody ever really heard much about it. So when they wrote up the award, I don't know why they just said an Commendation medal. It's kind of political every once in a while. So I think there were some other things that were involved in that, but they sent it over to district, and district goes, dude, this is a DFC case. And no, we want to give it a Commendation medal. So I think there was some politics over in Sitka going on, where it's like, I don't know. But anyway, so like you said, you're not in it for the medals. And so
not in it for the medals.
But we got them and it worked out. And so that was a real hairy one, that doing circles around a boat that's, sinking and burning and all that.
In 15 foot plus waves. That's the
waves are smashing up against it. But it lost steering, and I don't know why. They couldn't shut the engine down, so it was just going around in circles, burning. And these guys, I felt so sorry for them because they're just looking at it like the only other option is to jump, and we're not jumping. So I'm like, well, I'm good. I'm glad. So we got them off of that boat. That was Bob did a great job flying there, and the flight mech and doing all that. But anyway, so that was an exciting. But you got back, and that was one of those that just kind of got swept under the rug. Like, oh well, that happens.
Good job.
Yeah, slap on the back.
Email
notification of superior performance. Yeah. Yeah, we got a Commendation, which is a high medal, which was good though. So we got recognized for it, and the crew did, and all that. So
still, But the write-ups are so amazing to me. It's wonderful.
I probably wrote some of those too. You just get the big words and you just throw them in there, and But anyway,
it's great, man. Thank you so much for sharing. So I think that is actually going to be your last. I'm going to call it your last award that you earned while you were in Sitka, because your next award that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think I got a couple more. Yeah, I got a bunch more.
But what else stands out to you while you were in Sitka?
Oh, it's just you never knew what you were going to get. The weather.
Oh, amen.
You didn't have weather reporting. I remember we'd have to go up to some little village to pick up. We did all the medevacs up there, especially for the native population, and they had a lot of health problems. But you want to go fly into Hoona, and there's a pastor there. You call him up in the middle of the night and go, "Hey, what's the weather out there?" And he'd poke his head out and go, "Well, it looks like I think he had like maybe a wind meter. Well, we got 30 knot winds, maybe visibility this." And you talk to him and go, "Okay." And so you just start flying up, and it wasn't flying, high and over. You'd fly up into all these little valleys and, gullies and rivers, and then you'd get there. Sometimes you'd take off. You never see anything for miles. You're navigating. You know how it is. You're navigating on, radar and an old GPS. It wasn't even a moving map GPS. They finally, I think, got moving maps, but
they totally. We got the Magellan moving back. Back, so that was one of my jobs, like as a swimmer. And then I remember like the questionnaire coming out of some safety stand down. The pilots have it up front. We're like, no, that's my job in the back. Yeah. And all you guys up front were like, yes.
Yeah,
we absolutely want that freaking thing up front.
They had just got those right towards my end in Sitka. And I'm like, it was great because, swimmer in the back, he's looking at it and goes, "Sir, you flying, where are you going?" Because we'd have to put in every single little point for that long to put it on our little map, which wasn't even a map. It was just a black screen. So we just have to stay on that. And, you pilot air, man, you put them in wrong sometimes. And aren't you? Yeah. Oh, yeah, we better turn and go this way. So, but that was right towards the end. I mean, why they didn't get one before that, I'll never know. But so we did a lot of navigating, a lot of Native American, rescues, and you just never knew what you would get. And we picked up one. Oh, what was his name? The rescue swimmer. I'll think of it as you would laugh if you heard it. Beecham. Dave Beecham.
Oh, no, either Dave Beecham. Yeah, it was probably Dave Beecham.
Yeah, I think it is Dave Beecham.
Okay.
Great.
I love Dave Beecham.
But we went down. We had to go down to someplace and pick up this drunk guy who was like tore up the only Burger King in Southeast Alaska in some little village. He was a vet who had some drinking problems, and they finally got him subdued, and we got him in the litter, and we wrapped him all up in the litter so he couldn't move. And we're flying back with him, and he's in the back. He'd be like, "Come on, rescue swimmer, please let me out. I'll be okay." And then Dave would go, "No, you can't do it." And then he'd just start going nuts. And so the two pilots up front were like, "Okay, if this guy starts breaking loose, open the door and throw him out." Because this guy was huge. He's probably 300 pounds and just a big dude. And I don't know if if he had gotten loose in there, he would have torn us up. So,
oh my gosh,
we said it. We said, if he starts getting out, first of all, try to hit him with something and knock him out. If that doesn't work, throw him out. I don't know if we'd really do it, but we talked about, So anyway, we finally got.
The conversations are real. Those are absolutely real conversations.
You know exactly how it is.
I totally do.
Yeah, and so we got him back and everything worked out. But that's stuff we did. We did a ton of medevacs. Nobody else would fly. We were all by ourselves. Just go pick up.
I really like how you call the pastor up at like some village. Pastor. And by the way, we're coming up there. Could you say a quick prayer for us? I'd appreciate that.
Exactly,
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely. I got you, Coast Guard. Lord, protect those Coast Guard boys.
Those Coast Guard guys are like, thank you. So we'd sneak in back there and we're like, hey, I never actually met him, but, he did. But most of the other places, you just kind of go, okay, what's going to happen? And, you usually got in, but... It was the Alaska flying, it's just the most challenging flying you can do. When I came back to East City, I went out for a trainer and with goggles on, I'm like, "Dad, look how bright it is out here. This is awesome." You're used to being 300 foot below and clouds. And, I'm out there like, whoa, I'm about to use some goggles right now. So, but yeah, it's just real challenging up there. But
if you go up north, you got the entire like shoreline. It's all lit up for you. You're like,
yeah.
That's shore.
There it's like, hey, there's a mountain. I always laugh. It's like was it a Far Side one when there's two pilots in the cockpit and they're looking out of the cloud? There's like a little break in the cloud. They say, "Hey, what's that goat doing in these clouds?" There's a mountain there. Famous last words. That's what I always thought.
That's funny.
So on beautiful days, you go flying up there and it's just, you see so much beauty and just, it's just amazing. But that was
coming over but the fjords, and then you come over some of the glaciers, and
it's amazing.
I loved it.
You see bears and whales and all that. Yeah, it was beautiful. But unfortunately, it's not always like that.
Yeah, right, definitely.
Especially during the winter when it's dark and we're the only ones flying.
Yeah, there's actually a couple things that I remember specifically about, and I was flying up there, and a couple stories that stand out to me. One of them is we ended up coming out of the Prince William Sound, and as we're coming over, there's two islands, Montague Island and one of the others, I can't remember. Anyway, we're coming over, and there's a pod of like 15 killer whales just kind of doing just like circles, just a whole pod just hanging out. We end up we've got some other captain or a one-star admiral with us, whatever it was. Anyway, we dropped down to 50 feet off the water doing circles, and they're like, "No wonder you guys love this job." We're like, "Yeah, this doesn't happen every day, but yes, this is exactly why we love this job."
Yeah, and then you just think, hopefully don't lose an engine.
Yeah.
Or those whales are not going to be too hungry. Yeah, they'll eat us. But yeah, I know. No, it is. It's just that you just go, this is great. We do have a great job. And there's one, what's the rescue swim? We're flying one day, on a Saturday down the coast of East City. Beautiful day. And the swimmer goes, "Sir, I love this job." And I'm like, this is pretty cool that we get to do this. And all of a sudden we got to go, "Hey, can you go into Oregon Inlet? There's a boat circling around." So we go in there and there's a boat circling around, and we look around and there's a body on one of the sand, little sand dunes right there in there. So we go over and I go, hey, PJ, I forget his name, but anyway, we lower him down to see what's going on. And the guy's just chewed up and dead and nasty. And so the boat comes out from Oregon Inlet, and they can't get to it. And I don't want to get a dead body on it. Last thing I want is a body on my helicopter. So I said, "Hey, can we get it to you guys?" So the poor swimmer had to package the guy up in the litter, and we hoisted him up, and we didn't get him in the helicopter. We just moved it over to the boat and lowered him down. And then we came back and got the swimmer, right? And we get him up. I go, "Hey, are you okay?" He goes, "This job sucks sometimes." Right after we were flying down, we got the greatest. He goes, "This job just sucks sometimes." I'm like, "I'm so sorry." So, and we got him back. But it's one of those things, everything's great, and then all of a sudden it just sucks. So, but that's what you do.
We literally have I would call it the best of every world.
We do.
You're on top, and flying down the beach, cabin doors open, feet out on the tank, just ripping down the shore, and then you have that, and you're like, a great day went south quickly.
Yeah, but that that happens. That happened a couple times, but it's still the bonuses outweigh. We got the guy back to his family, and he's dead. Great swimmer. He did good. We kept an eye on him, but he did okay. I wish I can remember his name because he was just a great guy.
If you said PJ, was that PJ or not? Was he up in?
Yes,
I don't know.
That's it.
Was it PJ? Okay.
Yeah, he was an instructor over at the school for a while.
Yeah.
Golly,
he's a good dude. He came on this podcast.
What a great guy! I love that kid.
He's got some great stories too. Good Lord.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, he did. Well, yeah. The dead guy. If you talk to him ever, go, "Hey, remember the dead guy on the sand dune?" He just said they sucked. Or Dan Molthen. Yeah. So anyway,
it's amazing what some of us remember out of all this stuff.
I know. I haven't thought about that in 30 years. 20 years probably. But anyway.
That's great. Nice. All right, well, hey, Dan, I'm going to bring you right back down into E-City since you kind of brought up E-City a little bit. And in 2000, congratulations. You earned yourself another air medal. Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah. That was a cruise ship one.
It was. And this is one of the ones that I know kind of pretty well because it was done. All right. So the reason I know it is you were on the first helicopter and with the whole crew. And then one of my best friends, Bob Florisi, was on the second helicopter. So Bob calls me, or I end up talking to Bob about it, and then he's got, and I don't want to say what Bob said because I'm going to wait until he comes on here and shares his side of the story.
Oh, I got a lot of hours with Bob.
I love that guy. So anyway, but let's get into you and what happened here. So here's the citation. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal to Lieutenant Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Molthen is cited for meritorious achievements in aerial flight on 17 December 2000, while serving as aircraft commander aboard the Coast Guard helicopter 6031, engaged in a rescue of 34 crew members aboard the sinking cruise ship marine vessel Sea Breeze 1, 220 miles east of Cape Henry, Virginia. The 605-foot cruise ship foundered in 30-foot waves and 50 to 70 knot winds and was listing 20 degrees as seawater poured into the engine room. A severe line of thunderstorms moving east directly to the vessel's position lay between Elizabeth City and the Sea Breeze 1. Lieutenant Molthen skillfully piloted the helicopter through the 20-mile thick, violent storm front, which had earlier spawned numerous tornadoes, encountering winds in excess of 50 knots, heavy rains, zero visibility, and lightning. Upon arriving on scene, the captain of the Sea Breeze 1 radioed that the vessel would roll over at any time. Lieutenant Molthen immediately established a hover 20 feet above the aft deck of Sea Breeze 1. Assessing the dire situation and determining time was of the essence, Lieutenant Molthen decided to hoist 2 people at a time while hovering as close to the deck as possible. While hoisting the rescue swimmer to the deck, Lieutenant Molthen encountered gusts up to 70 knots as the ship rolled and pitched in the violent seas. In the ensuing 14 hoists, exceptional airmanship was required as Lieutenant Molthen hovered dangerously close to the ship's deck, railing, and wires. The aircraft stabilization system kicked off numerous times, worsening the situation. Within 25 minutes, the crew had rescued 26 survivors in 15 hoists, which was a Coast Guard record. Lieutenant Molthen's actions, aeronautical skill were essential in the success of rescue and resulted in saving 26 lives. His courage, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
That one worked out good. That one worked out good. There was a lot more.
26 people. That's the other part of this story that I remember because 2000, I was in Kodiak at the time.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten up there and I was like, oh my gosh. What?
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, it was. I mean, and the crazy part was we didn't know we had 26 people. We just kept hoisting and hoisting because the second helicopter was coming in. We didn't even know he was coming, but Randy Watson and his crew came in, and we're going back. How many people do you have? And I'm looking behind. I was right seat, so I look behind. My co-pilot now is flying, and all I see was just arms and butts and stuff. It was just packed, and I go, I don't know. So the co-pilot goes, hey, why don't you put a piece of paper and everybody can sign their names? I'm like, what? I'm going to shove it in this guy's butt? I mean, there's no way to put it any place. And it was Lauren Green, he's our flight mech. He's a quiet guy, so he wasn't complaining much. But Darren Reeves, the swimmer, he's like, he's back there. I'm like, Darren, you're all right? He goes, I can't move. I am squished up against the door because we want to get him back. He's our last hoist.
Yeah.
And I go, do you know how many people? He goes, I don't know how many people. We really didn't until Randy and his crew picked up the other 8. I'm like, you sure you got 8? I go, I got the captain here. He says there's just 8. I go, so we have 26 people and plus the swimmer and the mech back there. So, and up front, I kept going, don't worry, guys. We'll be, we only got an hour to go. And then finally Darren goes, sir, don't tell us how much further we have. I don't care. I just want to get the hell out of this helicopter, And he had just been on deck. That was, actually, I'll go back to right when we got on scene. We get on scene.
I'll tell you what, actually, can we back up even a little bit further? I want to hear it.
What do you want? Yeah, just ask.
The alarm goes off, and you hear a cruise ship, 605-foot cruise ship, with 34 souls on board.
Yeah.
What?
Well, it was in the morning.
Is that a mistake? Are you serious right now?
Well, yeah, and it goes back because that night I'd just gotten back from Sitka. I'd only been back to East City, so we used to get together, near Christmas. It was December 17th, drink a lot, and then call our buddies who had just left. So I get a call at 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning from a bunch of drunk guys up in Sitka.
that's awesome.
I spent about 2 hours on the phone. I didn't get much sleep. And then I came in for duty at 7:30, and Randy Watson was there. They were going to go and do a flyby for the first flight, which they were the only aircraft to do it because the weather was so bad, over for the Wright brothers' 97th anniversary or whatever. So I didn't get much sleep. So I wake up going to work. I go straight to the bed at in my duty room. So I'd been sleeping for about 2 hours, and the alarm goes off, and I heard Randy take off. And I'm like, oh, crap. And then I heard, like, cruise ship, and then with 30, all these people, I'm like, holy smoke. So we put the big tank on so we could get out there because it was far out there. So we put the 120-gallon, 800-pound tank on, whatever it was. And we got out there pretty cool. We started going. The C-130 was out there. And on the way out, we're talking over what we were thinking we're doing and what we'll get, joking around a little bit. And all of a sudden we get to the ship and we're like, holy crap, that's a big ship. And it was, it was like this.
Listen, like almost, yeah. Oh.
So right away, dead serious. We got going, and it was raining some. So, and when
you had a storm that you had to fly around or partly through.
Yeah, we kind of flew around. Yeah, we kind of flew around through the storm, and we got jostled around. The storm coming back was pretty big, We had some guy poop his pants in the back. Now you got all these guys in there, just the smell. It's like, ew. But anyway, so we get on there, and the boat's like this, and you're like this, and we're used to hoisting off of something that's level, not crooked.
Yeah.
So we get back over the deck, and we're right down in it, and there's this big guide wire coming down, like right next to us. So I'm sitting there. We finally get in position, and we're over the pool area, the deck, and there's a whole bunch of dudes down there, wanting to get rescued. So I'm actually looking into a dining room, and I always joke. I'm like, yeah, I knew I was getting too close to the boat when I could see the cups and saucers, and then I know I was way too close if I could see the silverware. Then I back up. I'm going to stick with that story. But anyway, so I'm sitting there I'm just like this, and my co-pilot, Craig Newbeck, was just doing a great job talking and making sure I didn't do it. And, they're getting the back all ready, and then we lowered Darren down, and I'm like, oh man, I hope those guys don't kill him. So then all of a sudden, we just started hoisting, just going boom, boom, and I just lost count. I was so focused on that, and in the meantime, somebody cut that guy wire. So I'm sitting there looking at looking in the dining room and trying to maintain a steady hover while all the wind is coming over, jostling us around. That wire comes shooting right next to it, like, whoosh, like crap. Why'd they cut it now? So I'm like, if that thing had blown
that would have helped to cut like 20 minutes ago, like even before you shut up, like, come on, man.
Yeah, so they did that, and then I'm just hoisting the boats, leaning a little bit more. Now I'm thinking, I got to get Darren back up. So finally, Lauren goes, hey, sir, we got as many people as we're going to get in here. Okay, let's get Darren. So Darren, we lower the basket because we can't get the basket in there. Basket hits the deck. Darren unhooks it, hooks him up, and we get him back. And he said when he came up to the helicopter, all he saw was a wall of bodies. It's like, so they, he shoved in there and then closed the door. So he's like this. Lauren's all the way on the other side, and and we had no clue how many people we had. So later on, when I got called on the carpet with a conference call with all the admirals and captains, they say, were you overweight? I'm like, well, yeah, we were overweight. And I kind of figured it out. We were overweight. So,
but did you have the power?
We had the power, though. We lost it for a second there. I know, that's why I love the 60, man. It's just got so much power. But when we slid off the boat and started going forward, it's like it wasn't a go forward and up. It was like we started going down like this towards the water. I'm like,
you gotta get that transitional lift. Let's go.
Here
I need a little forward airspeed.
Yeah, so we got a little forward airspeed, and it started taking off. I'm like, okay, that's good. But now we got to fly a couple 100 miles. I forget how many 100 miles back.
Well, it said 220 miles. That's
so now we can't make it back to East City. We have to go to oh gosh, what's the naval base up there, the air station,
Virginia Beach.
Yeah, it's in Virginia Beach. It's right,
over by Norfolk? Virginia Beach.
Norfolk. So we're flying back to Norfolk, but it's right. It's on the coast. There's 3 bases right there. I'll think of it in a second. But so we got to go back there. We're not going to make it back to East City. We are low on fuel. So as we're flying back, we hit a bunch of turbulence. We had to fly through a storm. One guy pooped his pants. I think one guy had a heart attack. And yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, but we couldn't see it. And they kept going. How many people? I don't know. And then Randy goes, dude, you got 26 survivors. I'm like, oh. And then it started getting really. We had the air conditioning, the ECS going, the air conditioning.
Yeah.
But it was getting stuffy. You got 30 people in a little helicopter that's the size, the interior is the size of a minivan. And it started getting a little stuffy, especially with the poop smell. So Lauren Green, the flight mate, somehow got one of the survivors because Lauren couldn't reach the window in the back.
Yeah.
And he got one of the survivors to grab onto it, and then Lauren pulled on his hand, and it cracked open a little bit. And you hear this in the back, you hear this, over, because now they're getting a little bit of air. So, we're flying back, Lauren, they said, just don't tell us how much longer we have. We're just miserable back here. And Darren, you know Darren Reeves?
I know Darren very well. Yeah.
He's one of the toughest dudes I know. So we start flying back.
But
yeah,
smiles on occasion.
He wasn't smiling that day, but every once in a while, it's got to be a really good joke. But so we get back in Oceana. That's it, Oceana.
Yeah.
We got it all. So we're looking over there, and there's like press and everything. So I get down. I'm like, and the tower or the ground goes, hey, you can taxi in here, and I'm like, I'm not landing because if I land out here, these guys are going to mutiny and try to get out. So I just air taxied right over the front of their, their base ops, and boom, landed. You're not supposed to do that, but I was like, it's weekend, it's no big deal. Yeah. And then
it'll be fine.
I jump out, and people just kept coming out. It's like a clown car, how they just kept coming out. And I'm sitting, and and then, so then we finally get them all out, and they have a whole hangar just with food and medical and press and everything for these guys. They had time to set it all up. So they all go in, and then my buddy Randy and his crew land with Bob Florissi in it, and they land, and I go over to Randy Watts. He's a dear friend. We're so close. We've flown forever together. Unfortunately he passed away by brain aneurysm just a couple years ago.
Damn.
Yeah, 50 something years old. Yeah, he was flying out at California for NASA. But anyway, just a great guy. I think he's got 2 DFCs. Anyway, so we just start laughing. We shake hands, we laugh. And in the meantime, the captain of the ship comes over and shakes my hand. And there's a picture of that. And that made it to like all the major newspapers above the fold of, me shaking the captain's hand. And so then we get everybody in there and everybody's eating, slap on the back and all that. So anyway, that one worked out great. It could have changed, next day, like, you were overweight. I go, yeah, I was overweight. I didn't know how many people I had. So I sent you that award, the Silver Clicker Award. Did you see that?
Oh yeah. So
what?
Hold on, let me bring that up. This is kind of funny.
They give us our air medals, and the captain, Admiral Score. He was the D5 guy, great guy. He was he was actually a Vietnam War guy who the Coast Guard gave the Navy, and he was piloting those small boats up the rivers and stuff. He was a riverboat commander. But anyway,
sick.
He gives us our air medals. He goes, hey, I got another one. And then he had his aide read the Royal Order of the Royal Clicker. And it was for,
what this says. I'm going to read this right now because it's great. Yeah. It says, Order of the Silver Clicker, awarded to Lieutenant Dan Molthen for extraordinary mission accomplishment, unsupported by arithmetic, presented by Commander, Coast Guard Atlantic Area, given this 17th day, January 2001.
Yeah. And what it was, he gave us a little golf clicker. So there's a little golf clicker. He goes, so the next time you guys do a rescue, you can count how many people you have. So he gave one of those awards to each one of us at the very end. He was a great guy. What a great leader. But anyway, so that was funny. Hilarious. And and it worked out great. So that one.
I will say this, when I got talking to Florisi about it, one of the things that he stood out to me about it was like they were under the impression, and I got to be careful because I'm not Bob. I'm not Bob, and I wasn't on scene, right?
Yeah.
But he's like, we were going out, and we were supposed to pick up like 17 people,
That's
and
what
you
it was.
guys
We're gonna
were
split
supposed
it.
to get 17. Yeah, split it
Yeah.
even. So Bob tells me he's like opening doors. Hello, is anybody in there?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck?
Oh, I know.
So
They had
anyway,
the C-130 go fly around it a couple times, make sure there's nobody waving. We had a third helicopter on the way with our commanding officer and I can't remember the other guys. And when we got back to CO's, like, what was his name? His son was a swimmer. Rod Ansley. Captain Ansley.
Okay.
Yeah, his son was a swimmer. And Captain Ansley's like, Dan, couldn't you have just left one for me? Come on. Just one? I'm like, dude, I thought the thing was going to roll over. And, I was worried about the guys on the ship, but I'm also worried about Darren. I just kept hoisting. And then one of my other buddy goes, yeah, you got them all in it, but they were just little dudes. I'm like, it doesn't matter how big they were. It still counts.
I don't think you would have been 26 Alaska fishermen. It was
No, probably not. Probably not. No, but anyway, we still did it. But yeah, it's so funny. We just had no clue how many people. Everybody was so focused. Oh, and the other problem was, as I'm hoisting, it's raining. You get some rain, and I don't remember, but there used to be a little scupper right in front of the cockpit that would bring air in. You pull this thing and it would bring air in to get the instruments.
What the heck is it?
Still, yeah.
Vent. It's the ram air. It's the ram air vent.
It's a ram air. It's only probably about this big, but anyway, they finally sealed it up because it was letting water in and it would get on the instruments. So that's why my AFCS, my stabilization kicked off a bunch of times. You're sitting there. Your whole flight systems are all computer assisted, so they're knowing things out. And then all of a sudden it kick off, and now it feels like you're on you're sitting on a great big beach ball. And then, but Craig Nedebecker, God bless him, he reaches right over, boom, and hits it, and it would turn back on, thank God. And he had to do that a bunch of times because I'm like, whoa. So I'm like, he saved it, and Lauren Green, the flight mech, he's just so professional. He's just blah 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 blah. And then Darren Reeves said, yeah, I got down there, and these guys were all trying to rush it. So I'm trying to keep everybody in line. And one guy pulls a knife, so I smacked him and took the knife and was like threw it in the pool. And I know, like, dude, you are the toughest dude I know.
Dude, I wouldn't mess with Darren either. Are you kidding? Like,
no,
he's like, he's jacked. I remember going to the gym the first time he was a shop. He was either first class and he made chief while I was there as an airman in 99. And I remember rolling up to the gym and he's got like 225 on the bench. And I'm just like, okay. And he just rolls out, like reps out like 20 reps. And I was oh, he's my new hero right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
don't mess with Darren. And he can swim too. My God.
No.
He's a machine. Yeah. Anyway.
No, he's just a great guy. But, and it worked out. We get back the next day in East City after we got back from Oceana. I mean, they had everybody and their mother, all the news places just interviewing each one of them. Darren's like, I'm not talking to anybody. Like this. Oh, remember, there's another swimmer, AJ. AJ.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about? Older guy. Seems like Darren, just very, because we went on a rescue one time and he's like, and you might go over that one, I don't know, but he's like, I'm not talking to anybody. Like, at least you are. So he talked, but he's like, I don't want to talk to anybody. But anyway, that was another case I think you might read. I don't know. I think was that in here? I don't know, whatever. But anyway, so but there we did all the talking. And then we got to go all of these parties, if we won all these different awards. And we're going around again. And don't tell my wife this, but I had one out in San Diego, and she's like, I'm tired of going to these awards, the ceremonies. You go out to San Diego by yourself. I'm like, okay, honey, but I'll really miss you. And all my buddies from the Naval Academy, they're stationed there with the Navy. And then we got the Coast Guard base there. I'm like, man, honey, I'm sorry. I'll have to go out there by myself. And so we went out and had a great time with like all my old buddies. Like, I miss you. I miss her, but
you, me, and the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we won't tell. Yeah, just sad. Nobody will tell her that, but she knows. She's heard all my stories. But yeah, so we got to go around and have a lot of parties and all that. And of course, we went to one with the other crew too. Bob was there. Bob is we could have a whole podcast about Bob Florissi.
Absolutely. I love that
anyway,
guy.
So he had a really good time. We all had a good time. So
that's so funny.
Yeah, it was Randy Watson and Steve Bond. We were on the other aircraft with Bob. And Steve Bond, another two Army DCAs that are just dear friends and just great pilots. So,
that's so cool.
Anyway, it worked out.
What an amazing story. It was actually a book written about that.
Yeah, I don't have that. I was looking for that. It was Admiral Carlton Moore, like the Sea Breeze Rescue, whatever. But he wrote that book, and I haven't even read it, so I don't like reading about that stuff. So it's like whatever, maybe one day. But anyway, yeah, he wrote a book about it. He had us all together, and of course that was what was that? Was that an air medal or Commendation?
That was an air medal. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they wanted to upgrade. They wanted to upgrade that to a DFC, but politics and everything came into play, and I don't
life.
It just went through. It went through the slipped through the grate, and
yeah.
Anyway, like you said, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Great. Yeah, we got the stories.
Yeah. And right now, I think you still hold the record for the most people in the back of an 860.
I think so. I haven't heard of anybody else getting 26.
I haven't either. And if anybody out there that listens to this has a different number or more than that, please let me know, or let us know, and we'll make sure we give a shout out to that to correct it. But
yeah, there might be some Army guys, but Army guys with their 60s, but their 60s are they got a lot more room inside. And anyway,
I don't know.
So if somebody breaks it, records are made to be broken. So
that's right.
Whatever. If somebody wants to do that, go for it. It's just you're going to be overweight, and it's not going to be a lot of fun trying to fly. But
Dan, incredible. Yeah, well done, sir. Well done.
Well, that was a good one. That was like, that worked out great. Got to party a lot, and got a lot of notoriety and all that. And it's funny. I still give talks. Like Craig Newbecker, my co-pilot, just lives just about 30, 40 miles west of me. So we get together and we'll give talks at different places. Somebody go, hey, can you come over and talk? Oh, sure, I'll get Craig, and we go and talk for an hour about stuff. And so we still, that Sea Breeze case with the cruise ship, it's still, that was years and years ago, and we're still hearing about it, and people still want to hear about it and write books and all that.
It's just it's not an everyday occurrence like that.
No. And that's what I got. I got all these weird, not everyday occurrence SAR cases. It's like, why did I get all the weird ones? I don't know. It's like blessing and a curse, I guess. I don't know.
To something. But what's exciting, and this is like one of the reasons I like doing the podcast, is I like all the ones in between as well.
Yeah.
The little ones that no one ever hears or talks about, because they're like, oh, that was just kind of an ordinary rescue, but it had its own uniqueness to it. Right?
Everyone's different. That's what I love about it. You never know what you're going to get into. You get all these plans, and it's like, well, that plan's out the window.
Yeah,
and you got to come up with another one just like that. That's what's so great about our cruise. I noticed in the Coast Guard a lot. Nobody's afraid to put their input in. It's like everybody talks, and it's you're not going to get yelled at for putting an input in. And it doesn't matter if you're a brand new rescue swimmer or flight mech or pilot, or everybody gets to put their talk in. And I enjoyed that whole crew thing. And you're the only ones. You're the ones making. The four of you are making the decisions. There's nobody else.
And it's cool because what happens is you make the decision amongst each other based on the information that you have right now. And what I saw in my time was nobody was worried about when you landed I'm going to get in trouble because of X, because I did. No. All the commands that I was ever a part of, they were always supportive of the aircrew. Now, the aircrew sometimes had to defend themselves based on a decision they made, but it was usually that, I don't even want to call it a defense. It was the reasoning behind the decision. And I've always seen it go in an okay direction.
No, I've always have to. We're going to do stupid things in the aircraft, and you're going to get yelled at or whatever. But they always supported you on the cases. That's like the cruise ship one. I could have easily been overweight and flown it in the water. And there goes, hero to zero in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So But
I don't know. So I don't know about that, only because you still have power. Like I can see you're looking at the gauges. You're not in the red yet. You're still in the amber.
Yeah, we're still there. Yeah, maybe a little bit in the red, but you can do that for a couple seconds. And,
the 50 knot headwind is probably helping you.
Oh, it's helping me immensely. But I don't even know if we were into the wind then, because the cruise ship couldn't turn. It was. We might have had a little bit of a. I can't remember. It was. It was just like, well, okay, we're going. Now it's like, oh, God, we got so many damn people in here. I hope nobody dies. or poop their pants, what happened. But anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. All right, Dan. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go to another one.
Keep going. Otherwise, I got a million stories.
No, this is great because, like, look at, we just went from 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001 was the Silver Clicker Award, which went and handed out. But it's kind of amusing to me that you literally, like, every year you had some major incident.
Was it?
Yeah. Like, it's hilarious. So then you took a little break. Well, sort of. Until 2005 when you earned yet another Commendation medal.
Oh.
We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
I'm sure you had a few in between the cruise ship and this one.
Yeah.
But this next one that stands out right here is 2005. It is a Commendation medal. And here's what this one says. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Medal, Gold Star in lieu of fourth, to Lieutenant Commander Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Commander Molthen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as aircraft commander aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6009 on the morning of 7 May 2005. The Coast Guard helicopter was dispatched to assist the foundering 40-foot sailing vessel At Ease. The At Ease was encountering a nor'easter with hurricane-like winds and seas, which caused the vessel at one point to roll through 120 degrees, throwing both tethered crewmen overboard. Upon arriving on scene, the crew encountered horrific weather conditions, including 30 to 35 knot winds and 20 to 25 foot seas. The boat At Ease, having suffered extensive damage, was listing to port, drifting helplessly in the raging sea and rapidly taking on water. The helicopter crew immediately determined the need to deploy the rescue swimmer to quickly assist the survivors off the vessel. Realizing the need to place the swimmer in front of the vessel so he could swim down current to the stern, Lieutenant Commander Molthen expertly assisted in positioning the helicopter in a difficult no-reference hover. The swimmer was lowered off the starboard bow of the vessel and proceeded to effect the rescue. Unable to get on board from the stern due to the tumultuous sea state, the swimmer directed the two mariners to enter the water for recovery. As the swimmer struggled mightily against the turbulent seas, Lieutenant Commander Molthen ensured no time was wasted in the skillful recovery of the two survivors and swimmer from the roiling seas. Lieutenant Commander Molthen's experience and leadership throughout the rescue evolution contributed directly to the saving of two mariners. His dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commending and are keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Man, this stuff does not get old for me, Dan.
I totally forgot about that one. When you're reading, I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? I don't remember this one, but now I remember. It ended up, this guy was a warrant officer in the Army. He's a Black Hawk pilot, and he had his boat, and he was out there with his buddy. And so they fought. And what's really cool about it, they should have been rescued that night, during the nighttime, because they were really worried. But being a pilot, he was thinking, I don't want these guys coming out at night. So he put out his Mayday at like daylight, so we would have daylight.
Wow!
How cool is that?
That's a cool survivor. That's a cool dude.
That's a good guy. But he was an Army guy, and later on, that was good. I just don't remember a lot about that one, but we did. We finally got him off of there. They jumped off, got the swimmer. I can't remember who the swimmer was, but we got him back to the air station, and he told us about the pilot. So later on, I was up there with Audie Andre. And we were doing some practice sling loads up at Fort Eustis. We go there, do sling load practice. And Audie was going to be an instructor pilot, so I was supposed to instruct him on that. But he was an Army guy, great guy. And we're like, okay, Audie, come on down and put the block right on that spot right over there. And so he goes about 20 feet past. Like, you dumbass, get back, joking around, get it back there. So we started coming back. he started backing up, and one of our engines just died like that. We got a 1,500-pound block underneath us, and we're at like 40 feet, 20 feet. So we lose an engine just like that. I'm in the left seat. I'm like, Audie, load the collective real quick. The flight mech punched off the load real quick, which saved our lives, because otherwise we would have hit. And then so we come back down, and boom, the helicopter's going over. I'm like, whoa, we're gonna roll over. Nope, we're good. Oh, we're gonna roll over. Nope, we're good. And then boom, boom, boom. And then we're like, what the hell happened? So we shut down. About half an hour later, the fire department comes out because we're on the other side. They take us in, and sure as heck, that guy we rescued off the case we just had, he's in there. He flies out of Fort Eustis. So I go, hey. And the other thing about it was we got called up to DC for one of the organizations that makes a lot of money for the Coast Guard, I don't know. They put this huge dinner on in DC in this huge old building that it was a pensioners building. And, we were, and I was the speaker. And I get up there, we have Sandra Day O'Connor, who is a Supreme Court judge. We had the director of Homeland Security. There's hundreds of people. It's like almost a black tie thing. So got to go up there, and the crew was there. The Army guy was there with his buddy. So they both said something, and I said something, talked in front of all these people. And as I'm talking, Leo McKay, who is the assistant secretary or something, was out there. He was a classmate of mine from the Naval Academy. Oh, wow. So I'm talking to everybody. I'm like, holy crap, Leo McKay, what are you doing out there? I didn't say that. But, and they also had, the funny thing too was they had a big reception for all the dignitaries, upstairs, with the commandant and all the secretary, whatever, and all this. And so I'm like, shoot, we should be there. They're here because of us. So I walked up, 04 in my blues that the neck didn't fit and the tie wasn't quite tied right. I'm like, I walk in and there's some guy standing there, some young guy, I don't know, it's civilian, and he's in a tie. He's like, you can't come in, your name's not here. I go, listen, we're here. Everybody's here because, it's my crew, and I want my crew to come in and have free drinks and food. And he goes, no. And then finally, I forget, it was some captain came over and goes, hey, Dan, come on in, And so we went in there and we were hobnobbing with all the, the Supreme Court people, and Homeland Security, Director of Homeland Security, the Secret Service guys. So we just kind of hobnobbed with them, and anyway,
that's awesome.
I know. So I broke into it. I was at the point like, I don't care. I'm not going to go past Lieutenant Commander probably. So I'm just like, let's go have some fun. But anyway, so they're like, oh, should we be doing this? I'm like, come on, man, let's go. We can do this. So we got in there and I had a party there that went downstairs and gave the talk, and it was kind of fun. Oh,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was.
I love it. You're walking up to like the bouncer. Yeah, I am on the list. You just don't see my name there yet.
You know who we are? We're the crew, man. And then we finally got in.
I would love to do that just one day. Do you know who I am?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so these cases, so we got to go. That wasn't really a big case. I mean, it was a big case, but they just needed somebody to, a crew up there because it was a big fundraiser thing. But there's hundreds of people there. But so I just got up there and talked for a minute or two and said how great the Coast Guard was, and I could BS with that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah, but my crew members were like, "Oh, Mr. Molthen's gonna get in trouble." But anyway.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, good one. All right, I'll bring you to another one. Here we go.
Okay. I don't know which one it is,
So all right. So out of this, it's actually interesting. So we're going to go to 2007. Yeah. You actually earned yourself 3 separate awards, all in 2007. 2 commendations and an achievement medal. And I'm going to go through each of them. And this. I think you're just a glutton for punishment.
I know. I'm like, I'm not. It's like
I'm not sure if I would want to be on duty with you all the time, or just I think I'd want to be with you all the time. I think.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we had a great time, and we go out, and just on regular flights, we just tell jokes and just have a good time, But when we had to get professional, we'd get professional.
Yeah. So. Well, you know what? Actually, let me back up real quick to the Sea Breeze, the cruise ship, is because you actually talked about that. You're kind of laughing and you're making jokes or kind of making light of a situation on your way out. And I've been in that position as well, where we're just kind of making jokes amongst each other in the crew. And as soon as you get on scene and you realize what's actually going on, everybody instantly locks it in right then. And it's like, okay, now it's game on.
No, it is. Exactly.
And it goes from like a light environment to very serious.
I know what you're saying.
It's cool. But anyway, all right, so here's this one. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Gold Star in lieu of 6th to Lieutenant Commander Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Commander Molthen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as aircraft commander aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6041. On the afternoon of 17 April 2007, the Coast Guard helicopter crew was dispatched from Air Station Elizabeth City to the position of the distress call received from the 35-foot catamaran Winds or Not, which was located 303 nautical miles southeast of Elizabeth City. Pounding seas had cracked the vessel's hull as the crew battled severe thunderstorms and gale-force winds. The survivors waited anxiously, hoping the hull's 3-foot structure did not take on water faster than help could reach them. Upon arriving on scene, the helicopter crew, unable to see the vessel due to the tossing seas, rain squalls, and low ceilings, was vectored into position by an overhead C-130 aircraft. Towering 50-foot waves rendered the Coast Guard helicopter's automatic radar altitude hold function useless, demanding the aircrew's utmost aviation acumen and teamwork to safely recover the mariners from the perilous situation. Lieutenant Commander Molthen fought furiously to maintain a stable hover as he briefed his crew on their course of action and particular areas of responsibility. Applying precise timing, the flight mechanics skillfully lowered the rescue swimmer between the pitching waves and rolling seas as the safety pilot called out altitude and wave intervals. With extraordinary airmanship, Lieutenant Commander Molthen precisely held the position for each life-saving hoist as the punishing waves and gusting 60-knot wind joined forces in the relentless assault on the crew. Low on fuel and unable to return to Elizabeth City due to strong headwinds, the helicopter crew expertly navigated through thunderstorms and flew the remaining 330 nautical miles east to Bermuda. Lieutenant Commander Molthen's swift actions and precise aeronautical skill were instrumental in the saving of 3 lives. His courage, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
That's a good one.
Holy. Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was, thank God for tailwinds, because, we had the extra tank and, Bermuda's almost 50 miles away from East City, so we got a little low on fuel going into Bermuda, but we had a huge tailwind to get out there, which is good getting out there. So we got on scene, and that was the A.J. Thompson one. You know A.J. Thompson? He's a swimmer.
I know the name more than anything else.
Yeah, he was like 42 at the time. And anyway, he goes down and we get the first guy up and we got to take him back up. I go, you okay? He goes, yeah, I'm fine. Well, what he didn't tell us, you got 3 guys. He almost got his hand ripped off on the first one. It was nasty. In the the cable wrapped around his hand and jerked his hand up. And that dude, he didn't tell us he was hurt. So we put him back down, gets the rest of the 2 guys, finally gets up, and then we're finally on our way to Bermuda, going through all this stuff. The guys were in pretty good shape, so he didn't have to do much. And AJ's not saying anything. The flight mate goes, "Hey, AJ's hurt," and he's like a Darren. He's very stoic. And great guy. His wife Myrtle. We're all good friends. But anyway, he goes, "Yeah, my hand, I can't move it." And the flight mate's like, "Dude, his hand's messed up." So he goes, "Okay." I go, "We're gonna have to get an ambulance for you when we get to Bermuda." He goes, "Okay, but please, I don't want anybody knowing about this." Okay, so I'm like, well, okay. I call the C-130. I go, "Hey, we got to have we need an ambulance when we get to the base. The rescue swimmer's kind of hurt." And next thing you know, everybody, the land areas calling hey, they want to know what's wrong with them. They want to know this. They got this and that.
Oh,
and AJ's like, oh, and he's just like, I didn't want anybody to know. So another time, I totally forgot that. Another time when we landed and one of my crew members had to get hauled off to the hospital. So he gets hauled off to the hospital right away. And now we got, so we got the two pilots in I think it was Dan Concetti. He was our flight mech. Great guy. Great.
Oh my God, I love Dan Concetti.
Isn't he
doesn't
amazing?
remember any of these freaking rescues because I ask him all the time. He's like, I don't know. I don't have any.
I think that was
so
his.
Shit.
Look and see if that's him, because he's also the one who saved my ass when we had to punch off the load when we lost an engine. The guy's amazing.
Oh my!
I think.
Okay.
Look it up, because I think it was Dan Concetti. Okay. I might have it wrong, but so but that was a pretty wild one. I mean, that thing, it was a catamaran or trimaran, whatever, and it was sinking. They don't know what they hit, so we had to get them off every time. But put the extra tank on so we could make it. And we made it into Bermuda with a heck of a tailwind. Gas was a little scotch, but not that bad. And we land. So right away, the C-130, they land. They take AJ, and they also take my co-pilot, because my co-pilot's Lance Leon's wife was due. So now it's just Dan Concetti and me. And then they flew another pilot out later. The problem was we couldn't get back because of the headwind, which...
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and my other buddy, Andy Chano, and his crew got stuck in Bermuda a couple months before, and they got robbed in their hotel. It was a cheaper hotel, so they stuck us in a 5-star hotel. It's the Grotto. So I'm like, well, this is cool, and all we had to do is so we couldn't get. There was no ships in between us to go back, so we were stuck in Bermuda for almost a week. I say stuck.
Oh my God, yes.
And what's also funny is our helicopter was parked at the FBO, and everybody on the island drove by it, and they're like, wow, there's a Coast Guard helicopter there. And The Guardian had just come out, the movie. So I was in The Guardian. So we the first night there, we're in our flight suits, and we go in the bar, and this older couple adopted us, and we had dinner with them every night. They'd buy dinner and drinks every night, and then we'd go out. But we'd go out and we'd be sitting there, and hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're Coast Guards. And they're like, oh, like The Guardian. And then my co-pilot would go, all right. They finally sent me a co-pilot. Or Dan Concetti go, okay, sir, go ahead. Tell them. I was in The Guardian. I was the co-pilot, this and that. We didn't pay for one drink or food the whole time we were out there. And then
that is awesome.
And we'd have to go over to the FBO every day to check the helicopter. And all these rich people would fly in. In fact, the Krispy Kreme plane flew in with the CEO of Krispy Kreme. So
okay.
We'd walk off and take out donuts, and we'd have donuts, and all these other people. Michael Douglas, his plane, we'd get all sorts of food. So we were like stars for about a week. And then finally they got a ship in between us and home. So I had been out with the same Audie Andry who, we had the engine failure with. I had been out 3 weeks before, and I qualified him on landing on ships, right? Because I had the IP for that. So we went out and landed on a Navy ship, and we didn't have time for me to get my mins, and my mins expired the next week. So I just, Audie Andry's first time, they fly Audie Andry out to take my place to fly back because I wasn't ship qualified anymore. And I just taught him like a month before. So he goes, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is my second time landing on a ship to get, first time was with you a couple weeks ago. So
that's hilarious.
So I jumped on the C-130. Man, I just flew home, read my book. I was home in about an hour or 2 hours. So the helicopter had to fly, land, and go and do that. So I was like, I don't mind. Hey, you go. I've had my fun here. But when we were there, dark and stormy, the drink, it's ginger beer and rum. And there's a certain ginger beer and rum that they have out there that they put in. It's Gosling's rum and I can't remember the ginger beer. So we drank a lot of those. That was in the days when you could actually drink when you were, alone. Well, anyway.
Deployed?
So we had, deployed, whatever. So we had a great time. So I brought a whole bunch home with me, a whole bunch of ginger beer, rum on the C-130. And so when somebody brings up dark and stormy, I'm like, I'm the one who brought it to America from Bermuda. It's my... And they go, you did not. And I'm like, hey, it's my story. I brought it to America. I'm the one who got it going good. So anyway, but yeah, so that was a good story. But we had so much fun on that island. And everybody loved us on the island. It was just, we just had the best time, and just, you know, we're getting tons of money for, you know, to live there, and we didn't have to spend any. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, but we had a good time. Yeah, that was a good time.
Oh, that is so funny.
So anyway, even these big SAR cases, I can have a good time too. So
absolutely. Well, that's part of it. You got to have a good time.
Yeah.
We work hard.
Yeah, so I got hard. They're like, hey, good job doing that. You know, we got commendation medals. Could have been an air medal. You know, it's just one of those things. It could have been whatever. Yeah. So, you know, like, okay. So.
Wow,
that was fun.
All right. So you mentioned it. I was going to hold off on this one. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're in the Guardian.
Oh yeah. You see my face for half a second, and then I talk a lot, and then I die. So, but
it's the very opening of the movie.
Yes.
You're sitting left seat.
Yeah,
right?
to David Hasselhoff's friend. I forget his name. He was an actor, stuntman in the right seat. That, you know, so. Yeah, I worked so little. Butch Flythe got me that gig. They were looking for a technical advisor who'd been to Alaska and a pilot. And they're like, I got a buddy who does it. And then they said, you want to act? I'm like, sure. I'll do it. But so it was a big difference between getting screen actors, you know, pay to, you know, just being a technical advisor. But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
so
right?
We did that for 3 weeks. You know, we're down there and had a blast and did very little work. Got to hang out. And, you know, then of course, they had the big party up in D.C. We went up there, and we hung out with the actors a couple times. My wife was funny though, because her and I don't know where the picture is, but her and Kevin Costner kind of hit it off. I was a little worried there for a second. Yeah, they were. Yeah, every time we meet, hey Teresa, you know. So, so I always joke. I almost left my wife. You know, Kevin Costner almost stole my wife. So, and then when he got divorced the other day, I was like, now I'm in trouble. He's going to come back. No, just joking. She goes, that's not how it was.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So anyway, that was interesting. That got us all. I free meals and drinks in Bermuda for a week just because of the movie and your Coast Guard.
That's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
the turn of events.
Yeah, and
going out to like literally somebody's worst day to turn into like a week of a great time.
Oh yeah, and I got stuck out there another time. We did a rescue. I can't remember which one it was, but that's when they put the you know, you couldn't drink. They're like, well, you're still out there with a helicopter. I know you can't get back for a couple of days, but no drinking. I'm like, oh please, you know. Here I am, this 45-year-old man talking to my ops officer, and she's like 39. I'm like, come on, Mom, please. Nope, can't do it. So anyway, that's good. You don't need to drink to have a good time. Helps, but
only sometimes.
Yeah, so I got to go to Bermuda twice, and I can't even remember what the second one was. But,
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
You know, I knew that happened out of Elizabeth City because there were a couple other friends of mine that had that happen.
Yeah.
And they, next thing you know, I'm like, you're in freaking Bermuda? And they're like, yeah. We couldn't make it back because of the headwind the headwind going back to the States. So it was just take the tailwind and go to Bermuda. I'm like,
yeah, and then get back later when they got a ship in between you. So
yeah,
anyway, that worked out. That was a fun one. Oh, I had so much fun in Bermuda.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
All right, next one.
2007, another one. This one's a little later. So citation to accompany the award of Coast Guard Commendation Medal, Gold Star in lieu of fifth. To Lieutenant Commander Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Commander Molthen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as aircraft commander aboard the H-60 helicopter 6041 on 7 May 2007. That morning, the Coast Guard crew was dispatched to rescue 3 sailors from a stricken vessel, Seeker, which was foundering under the fury of subtropical storm Andrea. Upon arrival on scene, 75 miles southeast of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, the helicopter crew witnessed the Seeker taking 60-degree rolls as it cantered towards the hazardous Diamond Shoals in punishing 50-knot winds and pounding 40-foot seas. Skillfully holding an 80-foot hover, Lieutenant Commander Molthen quickly developed a plan to save the distressed mariners from the perilous situation by employing the rescue swimmer. With the co-pilot calling out the wave intervals, he deftly lowered the rescue swimmer between the towering waves and prepared for the basket hoist. When the first mariner jumped into the water, it soon became apparent that the slashing winds and enormous waves were hindering the ability of the rescue swimmer to pull the mariner away from the pitching vessel and its mast. Demonstrating great aeronautical skill, he maneuvered the helicopter closer to the mariner, hastening the first life-saving hoist, while keeping the helicopter a safe distance from the seeker's violent swinging mast. The rescue swimmer was hoisted a few feet above the churning sea and repositioned with exacting precision nearer the seeker to execute the second demanding rescue. Despite the unrelenting waves and winds that continued their assault on the rescue swimmer and the third mariner, the hoist was successfully executed. After 40 minutes on scene, the dramatic rescue ended with the recovery of the exhausted rescue swimmer. The helicopter crew flew 3 grateful survivors to Air Station Elizabeth City for medical attention. Lieutenant Commander Molthen's dedication, judgment, and devotion to duties are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
I think we did like 3 big rescues that day. There's a huge storm coming through, so I was like this. I think I was the first, and then 2 other crews went out and rescued some people, but this was pretty, I mean, it was not a standard hoist, but, we got them all off, and it was really crappy weather. We get them up there. It was 2 men and a Russian woman, and I started talking to them over the ICS, and they were from Bermuda. And, of course, I said, well, I'm the one who brought the dark and stormy back to the United States, and they're laughing. So we get back, say hi, bye to you, whatever. And about a week later, I get a case of ginger beer and a case of rum from them.
No way.
The ginger beer, yeah. So they sent that to me. So that might have been, was that? I don't know if Bob was on that one. But anyway, but we had 4 things, 6 packs of ginger beer, and then we had 5 things of rum. So I gave the swimmer the 2 rums. It was a tough decision, though. I wanted to keep that rum. That Gosling rum's good. But anyway, so that was fun. The real interesting guys, they were really happy. But there was 3 sailboats who got caught out there, and all day long we rescued. The other 2 go just like mine. 2 or 3 people getting them off the boat. It was just we went, and then the next guy went, and then we had somebody else. It was a work day, so we had lots of crews there. But it's amazing how people get caught in that, especially sailboats. And sailboats stink trying to hoist to. I'm sure you've been up close personal with those. It's like the whole mast and everything. It's like, golly, I wish they could just like cut that down when we went out and got them. But
right.
That's why we always have to get them in the water. You can't really hoist off I did different story, but I did hoist off the Eagle one time. They had a warn-off on there.
Did you really? The Coast Guard cutter Eagle?
Yeah.
What? It's the only flagship that the Coast Guard has, right? Like,
it is.
Sail.
Yeah, they got it from Germany after World War II. So it's not
cool.
But so I got out there, and we're like, we got to hoist this guy off a sailboat, and the captain's on there, and so I'm like, we want to hoist him right off the back. I have my co-pilot was flying, Jim Harkins, and the flight mech had. What's his name? Anyway, they say, we need to hoist him off the back. That's the safest place. And the captain goes, no, we want to put him on one of our Liberty boats or one of our little whatever boats and get out there and you can hoist him off of there. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. So I got a pissing contest with the captain about what we're going to do. And to this day, I still wish we hadn't, I wish I had kept, I folded. And we got the boat. They got him in this boat. That was all. And it was just a horrible hoist. We got him up off of it. But I was like, that bastard captain, man. And, I'm like, just because you're a captain. And when I got back, I told our CEO, I think it was Cap Manson, hey, you might get a call from a captain from the Eagle because I was a little belligerent. And to this, it was, But anyway, and we fly back. And, of course, we're approaching the Outer Banks, and our helicopter starts shaking, so we had to do an emergency landing at the airport at the first flight. And anyway,
oh my gosh,
but that's I know that, but that's something else. But anyway, so there's probably some mad captain from the Eagle out there going, "Oh, that's the dude, Dan Molthen. I'm gonna get even with him," pissing me off. But anyway, that has nothing to do with this last case. But anyway, so.
Well, thinking about like that in particular case, I mean, again, congratulations for another Commendation medal for the award. But I mean, 40-foot seas, 50-knot winds. That's gnarly weather.
Yeah.
Like the biggest waves that I personally have ever been in are 30 feet.
Yeah.
And those are huge.
Oh yeah.
40 feet are bigger.
I know. It's like, yeah.
Significantly bigger.
But all these sailboats got hit, the 3 sailboats got hit by weather they didn't expect, and it just nailed them. So, but yeah, I mean, we got them. It's so hard to put the swimmer in the water right behind the boat, and then have the people jump off into the swimmer, because you get in the water, the boat's here, the swimmer's here, and then all of a sudden a wave, and they're so far apart that the swimmer's not going to be able to get to them. Yeah. You guys are Superman.
We all try.
I know.
No, we try.
I know.
We try to chase a boat. Every one of us that get out there, we try to chase a boat. And you might catch it once, maybe twice.
Maybe, but more likely. Yeah, like when Mario did the baby case we did. He's in the back of the boat. He's seeing the boat coming up. He's seeing the screw back there. He's like,
yeah.
But so sailboats are probably the toughest. The sailboats are probably the toughest to hoist from.
Jeez, oh man.
I know.
Wow. Well, good job.
I know.
Right, you got one more.
All these other stories are coming up in my head. It's like, okay.
Hey, you are more than welcome to bring them in and drop them in here and here. I promise. It's good with me.
Yeah.
Like, just let it ride.
Oh, I do. Yeah. You know Jerry Hoover.
God.
Do you know Jerry Hoover? He wrote a book.
Very well.
Jerry,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Brotherhood of the Fin. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So he and I did some pretty good ones too. Did I leave him on the boat? Yeah, I think I left him on a boat. This guy was incapacitated on a boat. He's only like 10 miles off the entrance to where was it? Norfolk. And the guy was just seasick. So I lowered Jerry on it, and the boat came. I think it was Jerry anyway. So they got the Coast Guard boat up there to tow him in, and we didn't want to have this guy on the boat. I mean, he's seriously ill from seasickness. So I told Jerry we were going to pick him back up, and we did, and we left him on the boat, to get towed in. Because he's a medic.
I think I remember him telling me about that.
Yeah,
actually,
he's a medic, and so it's like he towed him in, and the next day I go, Jerry, I'm so sorry. He goes, sir, that was miserable. He and I just laid on the floor throwing up on each other the whole way in. That's all we did. Like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I think that was Jerry Hoover, but that popped in to there's another rescue swimmer I left on a boat to saying, hey, I'll be right back. Anyway.
I might be eating my words here about like I want to be on duty with you all the time. Maybe I don't.
Well, I know. Yeah, I know. That's what people would say. I go, you don't want to be on duty. You don't know what's going to happen. So, anyway.
You might not be on the plane like coming back.
Yeah, exactly. And all the other ones worked out good. The one coming up, I don't know what, but that was a tough one. The next, I don't know if it's the next one or the one after that. It's a tough one. I think that was. But anyway, I don't know what the next one is.
This is literally your third award coming into 2007, which again just kind of blows me away. You're a magnet.
And, I guess so.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
this is an achievement medal.
Just luck. I mean, anybody. Yeah, it's just.
It is. You know what? You're right. It's the luck of the draw. You're on duty when that call comes in. That's yeah.
And that's another thing.
All right.
I always, if somebody called me, I would come in for duty. The guys are like, oh, I don't want to come in for duty. Yeah, I don't feel very well. I mean, I always came in if I was called, except once when I had been drinking. I didn't do it. But that's a good idea.
Well,
but I've never made an excuse. I always stood to watch. If somebody called me, I would come in, like the Odin thing. They called. I'm like, oh, of course that one. But I always did the duty, and I did it from 93 to 2010. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah. So, but you and I are kind of similar with this. Is like, I enjoy flying.
Yeah.
I enjoy standing the duty. I'm okay with it.
Me too.
I've always enjoyed flying. I don't ever remember a time in my career in the 20 years I've been doing this that I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to go fly.
Yeah.
Like,
well, later on,
I know people get like that, but
no, I loved it too. The SAR alarm would go off, and I just get so excited. But after the case we're going to discuss later. I flew for 2 years after that. I didn't have as good a time. We can talk about that later. Right. We can talk about that later, but anyway.
Well, let me get into this one. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Blue Drop Training and Simulation. Blue Drop Training and Simulation for equipping your team with essential training solutions, including highly interactive courseware and advanced VR/MR simulation training tools. Explore more of Blue Drop's training solutions at bluedropts.com.
Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Achievement Medal, Gold Star in lieu of third, to Lieutenant Commander Dan Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Commander Molthen is cited for superior performance of duty while serving as aircraft commander aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6001 on 3 June 2007. The helicopter crew launched from Elizabeth City, North Carolina, to rescue 3 people from an imperiled 35-foot sailing vessel called Lotus 3, located 210 miles southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. The Lotus 3 was disabled and adrift with shredded sails due to plummeting 20 to 30-foot seas and relentless 30 to 40 knot winds caused by Tropical Storm Barry. After battling long headwinds en route, the helicopter crew arrived on scene to find the vessel being tossed about in the towering waves. Lieutenant Commander Molthen positioned the helicopter above the vessel to deliver the rescue swimmer aboard. As the crew began to hoist the rescue swimmer to the vessel, they narrowly escaped disaster when a rogue wave swiftly lifted the vessel with its wildly swaying mast towards the helicopter. With keen situational awareness and reacting with tremendous skill, Lieutenant Commander Molthen averted catastrophe by adding full power to clear the vessel's mast. After reassessing the situation and formulating an alternative course of action, he repositioned the helicopter further behind the vessel and delivered the rescue swimmer into the water next to the boat. Once the rescue swimmer had successfully rescued the first mariner, it became apparent that the relentless waves prevented him from safely distancing himself from the vessel for subsequent hoisting operations. Lieutenant Commander Molthen positioned the aircraft in the narrowing space between the sailboat with its dangerously swaying mast and the rescue swimmer and survivors. With no visual references, he adroitly maintained a 120-foot hover as the flight mechanic hoisted the remaining 2 mariners and retrieved the exhausted rescue swimmer. With all on board, the helicopter delivered the 3 survivors to the awaiting medical personnel in Wilmington, North Carolina. Lieutenant Commander Molthen's diligence, perseverance, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
Okay.
Heck yeah.
I don't remember that one.
Not even a little.
I'm like, you're talking about like, okay, there's 3 people I've done this one. I can't remember that. I'm trying to think of.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a good one. I mean, they wrote it.
Right. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, I guess it was, but I mean, like, I cannot. That's why I wish I had written everybody's names down on the back of my thing so I could figure out, who was on it. So.
Well, you know what? Good job, sir. Well
Thank you. What, I don't remember it, but I'm sure we did a very good job. I'm sure it was very scary. I don't even have any side stories on that one. Huh.
No, it's all good. All right. Okay, and moving on to the next one.
Hopefully I'll remember this one.
The next one, so this was the one you and I have been kind of talking about a little bit. That is probably one of the hardest cases that you've ever had to deal with. And I had a fellow brother of mine that was on your helicopter that day, Bradley Pagage.
Oh, I love
He was
Brad.
actually, so Brad came on. He was episode 112, and he actually talks about this in particular rescue. And I also had Drew Dazzo on, because Drew Dazzo was the second helicopter that showed up on scene with this one. So what I'll do is I'll read the award, and then if you don't mind, just kind of bringing us with your perspective.
I've never read the award. I was thinking I don't want to listen to the award, but
okay.
I was thinking, but what you could do, while I'm not, if you can read it later and then insert it before we talk about it, because this one really messed me up, and we could talk about this later. This was. But we'll talk about that later. But if you can read it while I'm not listening, because I've never read it, I don't think about it anymore. I'm still in counseling about it, so it really that really messed me up. And I'm not embarrassed to talk about what happened afterwards, but I just don't want to go through it again. I don't want to hear it. We'll talk about a little bit about it afterwards, and I can tell you I'll probably talk more about what happened afterwards than what it is. But is that a problem? I don't want to.
Not at all. I 100%.
I have not thought about it in years and years, and I don't want to go back to where I was before. And and all that, which I don't think I would, but I just, you don't want to see an old man cry.
Nope, that's okay. So I'll tell you what, for our listeners right now, I'm going to insert it right here. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal to Lieutenant Commander Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Commander Molthen is cited for meritorious achievement in aerial flight on the night of 28 to 29 October 2008 as aircraft commander aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6003. The crew launched from Air Station Elizabeth City and flew through a severe winter storm, packing gale-force winds to a position 280 nautical miles to the northeast, where sailing vessel Freefall had been severely damaged. Demonstrating superior aviation skills, he established a hover with no visual horizon or the assistance of the helicopter's altitude or heading hold functions due to 40-foot seas and 55-knot wind gusts. Exercising remarkable situational awareness and planning, he discussed and prepared his junior crew for an exceptionally demanding hoist evolution. Applying precise timing with critical altitude and wave interval input from the safety pilot, he directed the flight mechanic to lower the rescue swimmer between the towering waves into the frigid water. As the rescue basket was lowered for the first survivor hoist, waves crashed down on the empty basket and frayed the hoist cable, rendering it useless. Recognizing the life-threatening conditions faced by the rescue swimmer and survivor in the water, he initiated the first personal use of the emergency recovery device to save them both. The device's lightweight line sailed uncontrollably in the high winds, leaving an insufficient length to reach the water from a safe altitude above the waves. Undaunted, he made a difficult decision to lower the aircraft between the immense waves to effect the rescue mere feet above the surface. Exhausted and physically drained, he expertly navigated the helicopter through 120 nautical miles of intense weather to obtain immediate medical assistance for his injured and hypothermic rescue swimmer. Lieutenant Commander Molthen's actions and aeronautical skills were instrumental in the difficult recovery of the rescue swimmer after the rescue hoist failed. His courage, sound judgment, and unwavering devotion to duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Now it's done. All right.
So see, and I'm okay. I didn't have to listen to it.
You didn't have to listen to it. Everybody else got to hear it, and you actually got to fast forward through it again.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So,
but it's good for everybody to hear what happened, and also Brad talking about it because, that was the worst night of my life. The worst. So, and thank God, there's a lot of firsts on that one too, which you can talk about later. Using the emergency recovery device.
I'll tell you what. So let's do this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's start right from kind of like launching out. So you guys get launched out, and again, it's 280 nautical miles way out, 55 knot winds, 40-foot seas. It's dark.
Oh, it sucked. And it was a typical sailboat hoist, that went wrong. And like I said, I've had some bad experiences with the hoist, 99.9% of that. But this time, when you're hoisting and rubbing up against things, we had the tank out there so we can make the flight, which makes it even, kind of pushes forward into the hoisting area. So, it was just a bad night. I actually had to punch off that 120-gallon tank,
which is the tank on the right side.
That's the tank on the right side. We always fly with the extra tanks, and we got the helicopter from the Navy, and the Navy puts torpedoes on it, and we said, hey, why don't we put some gas tanks? So there was an 80-gallon and 120-gallon tank.
Correct.
Which is I forget.
Well done.
How do I remember that? Which is 2,400 pounds extra of fuel.
Yeah.
So we needed it. So it just didn't work out, and hoist broke, and I punched off a tank. So there's some fuel tank floating around out there in the Atlantic, but we got Brad back, and Brad is a dear friend. I get emotional about this stuff, but there was one time my friend Captain Walls, who was a CO of Air Station East City back in the 90s, my second CO, great guy. and his wife Loretta, who's just a dear, just a wonderful lady. And so when Captain Walls was a JO, they had another pilot, Pagage, I think Brad's dad was a pilot in the Coast Guard, I think. But anyway, Brad lost his mother to cancer when he was just a baby, and Loretta helped them through that. Helped them all. She held Brad as a baby and all this. Well, she wanted a couple of at-risk kids to come over, meet some of the swimmers and just get shown around. So I'm like, oh, Loretta, I'd love to do that. So I came in and give a big hug, and then we go to the rescue shop, and there's Brad. And I go, hey, Loretta, this is one of our great rescue swimmers, Brad Pagage. And I think this was before all this had happened. It might have happened after, but I don't know. And she just starts crying. And I'm like,
Aww.
She held Brad when his mother was dying, because she goes, is your name Pigage or Pagage? She goes, it used to be Pigage, but everybody calls me Pagage now. She goes, I held you as a baby when your mother was dying. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm over here like, trying not to cry, big dude, big tough dude, Brad, he teared up some, but what a beautiful story. So we sat there showing these, at-risk kids with Brad, who she, helped the family during his mother's death. I hope that's the right story too. Sorry, Brad, if it's not, but I remember it. But that was one of those stories with Brad, and then another story with Brad, my brother calls me and goes, Dan, you'll never believe this. And I go, what? He goes, I met Brad Pagage. I go, what? Because Brad's a huge triathlete. I don't know how he's doing it now. Just an amazing athlete. My brother's a triathlete too. They met in Hawaii or something at a race. What a small world.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So that's my closeness with Brad. And I can't remember the flight mech's name, but it just, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and thank God. But we, so anyway, so I just can't, I can't process that very well. I'm still dealing with it after 20 years. It happened almost 20 years. But good thing is Brad came back once again. Had to take another one of my members off the helicopter in an ambulance, and that was just a rough night. But we ended up in Atlantic City, and the EO there, Kent Everingham, he's a helicopter pilot. He's a 65 guy. He was there. It's the middle of the night, everybody's there, and he really helped me out. Because he took me aside, and we sat there for a long time. So, and I just saw him at a wedding about a year ago. One of my buddies, Tom McDonald's daughter, got married. But so it's just like you said, friends. He was just there for me. I was feeling horrible, and the next day, they bring in everything and they bleed you and they drain all your fluids. Because it's the Class A, and I was just like, oh, and then fly back. Hadn't slept. My wife was leaving the next day to go to her dad's 80th birthday or something like that. And I'm saying, you go. And I came home and I'm, trying to, sucking it all in, and I drove her up to the, up there and then to the airport and drove back. And then I just started losing it. And I was sitting there, didn't know what to do. I mean, it was the next day. It was just horrible. The feeling inside of you, failure and all that. And sure as heck, Tom McDonald's wife, Fran, comes up. She drives up and I'm there by myself just sitting at the table. And I don't know what time it was. And she walks in and she goes, I was driving downtown, Dan. I felt you needed me right now. So Fran sat there with me. And then she saw how bad off I was, and she goes, okay, we're going to have somebody stay with you the whole time. So Tom came over. Tom McDonald's the C-130 pilot. And he came over that night and stayed with me. And all day next day, I had people staying with me and then people coming over to see how I was doing and all that. And Teresa still doesn't know. I didn't tell her. She'll probably, she was pissed about that, And she finally comes home and then, 2 days. It was only like 2 or 3 days, but it was a rough time, going through all the boards. You have to go through a safety board. You have to go through this because all this stuff's happening. And I feel bad for the guys interviewing me because I was a freaking mess, And of course, after all that, I just, sucked it up, did the 3-day rule, which turned into the 6 days, 7, 8, 9. But anyway, so about 2 weeks later, I was flying again. But there was just something I was still performing great, as an IP, still doing everything. Now, I think there's another rescue after that I did. And
we actually have 2 more after that.
I have 2? Okay. So anyway.
At least.
Oh, really? Yeah, so I flew for another 2 years, and then I did some great rescues. We did a lot of stuff, but I was more serious. I wasn't enjoying it as much. And then finally, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but I was just out there with Mario Vitone, out in the river in Elizabeth City. You've been in that river, and the hoist broke, just failed. And that just triggered me, and we landed and never flew again. I haven't even sat in a helicopter. So like going to the symposium down there, Verticon, it's like I could only take it, so much. And Teresa goes, okay, we're going out for a second. So it's incredible. I was like the man. I mean, I'd been doing all this stuff. I was almost 50 years old. Everybody wanted to fly with me because they wanted SAR cases, and I just freaking lost it. It's like, but it was good because people saw and they said, hey, listen, if it can happen to you, it can happen to other people. So, and I say, yeah, you just get help. So that whole case right there, I know there's a lot of firsts for that, but it's just really hard to talk about it because the outcome. And that was one of those cases, like the case that I had up in Alaska. It's like I did everything I could. There's nothing else I could do. This one, I just what if the hell out of me. What if we did? What if we found the splice? Whatever. What if we had done this? What if we done that? Why did we? Should have done this. Should have done that. And it just tore me up. And I still get to that point sometimes. But the what if? And I remember it's so funny. It's not funny, but Kevin Costner, Butch Flight wrote a letter. Kevin goes, "Hey, Dan's having a hard time with this, whatever." Kevin Costner wrote me an email, real nice email saying, "Hey, you do the real thing, blah 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 blah." And at the very end, he goes, where God puts a period, don't try to put a question mark. It's like, it's done. It is done.
Wow.
Is that a great one?
What a great piece of advice.
No, it is. I've got advice from a lot of people. Some people want to tell me their stories. It's like, I just went through a trauma and you want to tell me about your traumas? No, I don't want to hear your stories about that. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear. But that one little thing, it's from somebody you wouldn't think would say that, whether it's God or whatever, but it's like, it's done. Why put a question mark there? And that helped. I mean, I still did it, but that was always a good one. Yeah. It's just a simple thing.
Wow. Thank you, Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
Yeah. Even though he tried to steal my wife, but that's okay. It's joking. Kevin, I'm sorry. I don't mean that. I just joking. He probably doesn't even remember us, but anyway. No, it's funny because one little more story. I know this will lighten up up a little bit. But Kevin Costner has a band called the something West. I don't know, some band. It's a kind of country rock and roll. I think they had one hit for NASCAR, but they were playing up in Norfolk. So Butch Fly, Bob Watson, and me and our wives, our 3 wives, all go up to the concert, right? And afterward, we go behind stage, and we're hanging out with Kevin and everybody else. And so the girls, 3 girls want to get a picture. Kevin's like leaning over on Teresa like this, and the other 2 are standing right here. And I'm like, look at that picture. He's all over you. It's just, anyway. But I really like that advice because, anything can happen. And if you what if yourself, it doesn't matter. It's already happened. So anyway, that was great piece of advice. So that whole case is like, I know I'm sidestepping around it. I know you want to get some more meat. That's fine. But it was just a really bad case that I really took personal. And when we had the schism, we're talking it all. I can't remember who but we're all talking. And there was 2 crews and then the C-130 guys were all together. And I was that guy who wasn't talking. I was the guy that I would point out before saying, you need more help. But I never did. And I always had that phone number in the back of my mind to get some help. And I didn't use it till, 2 years later. And that got me on my journey to recovery. I'm still crazy, but... Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at that.
I know. Steve Chervany's funny because Steve was in a pretty bad thing. He's one of pilot. I love Steve, just a dear friend. He's still flying in East City as a civilian, a maintenance guy. But anyway, Steve and we got together. I go, Steve, I think I'm going crazy. And he goes, nah, my doctor said you're only crazy if you think you're crazy. Oh no, you're only crazy if you think you're not crazy. If you don't think you're crazy, then you're crazy. I go, oh, thank God. Then if I think I'm crazy, I'm not crazy, And it was funny too. After that case, I had to go see. Or no, when I really broke down, and I knew I wasn't going to fly anymore. I go into the doctor's office. I can't remember his name, but great guy. He had gone through a tragedy with his son, in an accident. And so we kind of bonded. Great flight mech. Oh, I should have written that name down. But he's like, well, do you want to get to fly again? I mean, I'm just a mess. He goes, do you want to fly again? And we can get you going. I'm like, dude, I'm the one who's crazy. You're the one who's crazy who says I'm going to fly again. I am done flying. After that, my last flight, I'm done flying. And that was 2 years after this case we're talking about right now. So I know it just, and you don't think it happens to you, but it does. It just nailed me. So
yeah,
not many people want to talk about that. You're being, going over the edge, but I did. And I still did a couple rescues after that.
Which I'm excited to actually continue to talk about them because you didn't end there, which I have the utmost admiration for you because it didn't stop you, even though you're a battle. And I understand that because I get it. I have a lot of admiration for you for continuing on. We all pushing through.
Yeah, we all have that, and I kept flying. Should I have gotten help right then? I go, yeah, I should. I probably should have, but I was still functioning at 100%. I was still functioning at 100%. So I said, okay, but it was always in the back of my mind. In fact, I was right before I had the major breakdown after my last flight, I was in Office Max, and my friend Sandy Asper, they're friends of mine who live down the street, her and Dar, great friends. In fact, their son, great compliment. Their son, they weren't Coast Guard, they were civilians. He worked on base, but they had a son who I just went and saw about 2 weeks ago, who just got out of the Air Force and is flying for the airlines now. But his son said, Dan, you guys, all the pilots in our neighborhood who we all hung out with, we hung out in Whitehall Shores, which is kind of where a lot of Coasties live. He goes, that's why I went in the Air Force to fly, because of you guys. I just saw how cool that was. And his dad, Dar, says the same thing. So, we really, we influence people like that. But to see him, with his pregnant wife, and they already have a kid, and he's flying for the airlines now, and he flew C-5s in the Air Force. I'm like, yeah. And to say that we helped do that was really cool.
That's cool. That's
and then we got an award. I think it was for the cruise ship rescue. We went to an award up in DC at the museum, the Aviation and Space Museum. We got some laureate, whatever. So we're sitting in the Space Museum with all these rockets. They got guys who landed stuff out, and they're giving us the awards and everything. And one of the cadets, they had a cadet from the Navy, Army, Air Force, and Coast Guard who were going aviation, and they said, "Hey, you're the top guy going from your school." And also, they got these real expensive Breitling watches. They wouldn't give them to us because we couldn't take them for some reason.
Nice.
So anyway, so it was Mo Murphy. I didn't know who the hell he was at the time. He comes up to me when he comes back to East City as a pilot. He goes, when I saw your video, that's when I really wanted to be a pilot. I read about all that, and I wanted to be a pilot. So anyway,
that's super cool.
Lives. But then other people look at you, oh, you're an idiot. How did you ever do that? Humbling.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, those are just two offshoot stories. I'm trying to avoid the.
I know you are. I know you are. Here's what I want to do.
Yeah, if you got a question to ask.
I don't want to get too deep into it because I know again, and I saw Bradley as well. Brad, he did a really good job talking about it. So I'm going to ask two questions.
Yeah.
The first one is. So this was the first time the ERD, the emergency recovery device, had ever been used in actual rescue. Yeah. And I say that because I had been on it as a swimmer training.
Practice.
Every flight mech had to do it as a training tool. But this is the first time I had to do it. You're talking, again, based on the write-up, it was like 30 to 40-foot waves.
Oh, it's horrible, yeah.
Talking to Brad, he had said you took the helicopter down to like 5 feet off the crest of the water to try to get him. And I want to...
What's the only way we can get him? Because it's just a rope with a hook on it. It's floating back. So, yeah, we and of course, one of those things where you go, hey, we're only going to go down no lower than 20 feet. And I'm like, screw it. I got to get this guy out of the water.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one of those things I totally forgot. Yeah, we had to. I mean, we had to I put our lives in peril to get Brad, But that's what you do for your shipmates and flymates. So,
and I will tell you, as a swimmer, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. But it's so funny, Jason. I put all that out of my mind. I have not thought about it in years. The defense mechanism. But yeah, I totally forgot about that. But the important thing is we got Brad back, and that's all that matters. And I just love that guy, and I've lost touch with him. I know he's still active duty, so. He's
doing great.
Mobile. Yeah, I know.
Him and I message each other all the time.
Oh, good.
So,
I'll got to text him to see if it's the same number I have. So, but just wonderful guy.
If not, I'll hook you up. I got a guy. I know a guy.
You know a guy who knows a guy. Okay, that's cool.
I do.
But yeah, it was just tough in my the flight mech. Oh, I can't remember his name. But the co-pilot was real good about keeping the crew together on the way home. I mean, he was I flying? Yeah. Well, anyway, we're flying home, and I didn't want to give up the controls. I just wanted to fly. I didn't want to have to, give my mind. I just wanted to fly, keep my mind busy. And I think it was Frank Wolf, and he just kept the crew together. Talking while we're going back, because if it gets quiet, that's when you have problems. And I'm not a quiet guy, but I was quiet that night, and he kept everybody talking, and talking to C-130 and all that. And but boy, the support I got back from all my buddies, it was just amazing, and it helped so much. Except for, I won't mention any names, but I had to go and talk to him, and he started talking about his SAR cases. I'm like, to me, it's like, I broke a toenail and had to cut it off, or whatever. But I'm like, I don't want to hear about your traumas. I just want to go home, and and I didn't have, my wife was gone at the time, my rock, so that was tough.
Yeah. People and I know that you start telling a story and they want to interject their story to make a comparison to just shut up. I just need you to listen.
Exactly. In fact, my buddy Dar, I was talking too much one night. We were having some drinks and stuff, and he goes, I forget who it was. It might have been oh gosh. Anyway, some famous guy came up with lines. He goes, never, and he said, Dan, so and so said, never pass up the opportunity to shut up. I'm like, I love that.
That's great.
I know, never. And I'm like, and he said it right when I was talking. I'm like, I get it. I got to shut up sometimes.
Well, anyway. I'll tell you what. This is what I'll say, Dan. I don't have any more questions about that rescue. Okay. If anybody wants to listen to Brad's side of it, the other side of it is that, and I say this a lot, those in distress are praying for a miracle, and they get us.
Yeah.
At the same time, their emergency is not our emergency.
Exactly.
Right? We did everything, you did everything you could to help those in need.
Yeah. But
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It is.
It wasn't your emergency.
Right.
Your emergency turned into getting Brad back. And that's it.
Yeah.
That is a win.
It is. But when the mind is so weird, you go through a trauma like that. We've all been through that where you can't get something out of your mind. And so it was just like, and it hit me 2 years later real bad. It was just like a movie, like a 10-second movie going in my head over and over and over and over again. So, but right away they got me to see a psychiatrist, and went through tons of, psychologists and whatever. And I'm still seeing a great one now. I see it once a month. Online, she did from the VA. The VA has been awesome too. So I talked to her.
It's wonderful to hear.
No, and I talked to her, and even though if I don't need it sometimes, we just sit there and talk, and she asks how's that. But a lot of times it's like, what? I almost died 2 years ago. I had an infection in my back. I got an infection in my back. So of course, being a guy, I'm like, I'm all right, and I kept swimming and working out. I'm like, why does my back hurt? And all of a sudden, my whole body just started contorting like this. I was in bed. My wife's like, you need to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, let's wait till tomorrow. And so I'm like, I waited till tomorrow. Now I'm real bad. So I chat with the nurse, and she goes, go to the hospital. So I go to the hospital. They send me home. They misdiagnosed me. The next day I'm even worse off. And my wife and my daughter-in-law and my nephew, who's dying of brain cancer, come in, and they go, you need to go to the doctor. I go, no, I'm okay. I'm not good. So I took me to the doctor. To the hospital, the other hospital, and I ended up being in there for 2 weeks. I had a massive infection in my upper back.
Oh my gosh.
But if it wasn't for my wife, I would be dead. So my theory is males only live past the age of 16 because of women. Because, because otherwise the guys are like, yeah, go ahead, jump off, see if you can fly. Dad's mother's like, no. So my wife and my sister-in-law and my nephew, who has recently died from glioblastoma, which is horrible too, but they saved my life because I was too stupid to go. But I couldn't get out of bed. So of course, and my nurse in there, her dad is a Coast Guard captain someplace, and so we talk about that, and she's dating an ex Coast Guard guy. Anyway, so it's a small world, but but from my wife being around, I mean, she's the reason I'm here now. Not just because of that, but because of everything else. And she's put up with a lot. You know how it is, putting up with aviator wives, and like, what are they doing? Yeah. What are those knuckleheads doing? And swimmers are even worse because you're always trying to outdo each other. It's like, what the hell is
that's kind of stupid.
The Bob Florissi flying around with him naked in the back of the helicopter. I go, what are you doing? You know, it's like, I know, is he a Master Chief now, or is Chief? Or
I don't know. He went. I don't know if he's a warrant or if he's full on.
I know
officer,
he's done well, but But anyway, so you know, it's just you got to watch out for yourselves. But that's my whole philosophy on that. But yeah, I almost died. It was great because at the YMCA, you know, I everybody thinks just old farts go. There's a lot of old farts there, but man, I had the whole swim league all sign a big thing for me. Everybody was coming over, and one friend came over, and I'm laying on the couch. I couldn't do anything. I was in a PICC line when I came back. And they dropped my nephew off, too, with the brain cancer. We'd sit there just talking everything. And my friend walks in, and she had donuts or something. She goes, look at you two. You two are pathetic. You know, here's a guy with brain cancer, another guy who just about died. And I'm like, thank you. I needed that so bad. You know, but you guys are pathetic. But anyway, it just, you need people, you need friends and people around you. And the Y and all my friends, my church people, everybody just came around me. And, you know, I'm like, you know,
good.
To your wife next time.
Yeah. I get that constantly.
Yeah.
From her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get it too. Yeah. Then her friends start saying it.
Absolutely worth it.
Yeah,
I'm very okay with it.
So. Yeah, so we'll be 39 years in
let's get into these last two. No, you're good. You're good. We're gonna divert real quick to thank our sponsors. The RealResQStore.com. Your shop for all your podcast-worthy gear. From comfortable shirts to cozy mugs, we've got everything to showcase your love for your favorite podcast. So what are you waiting for? Head to therealresqstore.com and let your gear do the talking. So this is, after that one, this is the same year. So this is after
the bad one
with Brad. Yep.
Yeah.
So you earn yourself another achievement medal, and here's what this one is: citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Achievement Medal, Gold Star in lieu of 5th, to Lieutenant Commander Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Commander Molthen is cited for superior performance of duty while serving as aircraft commander aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6003 on the evening of 31 December 2008. The helicopter was dispatched to rescue 3 fishermen aboard an 80-foot fishing vessel, Boss Lady, that had run aground in a shoal water off the entrance of the Oregon Inlet, North Carolina. The 5 to 8 foot ocean swells stacked up upon the shoals and created an 8 to 10 foot wall of white water that continuously tore the boat apart. Upon arriving on scene, the helicopter crew encountered nearly zero illumination with little to no ambient light, 35-knot winds, and ever-changing surf. The 3 fishermen huddled in survival suits on the starboard portion of the bow with only a few feet of the bow above the waterline. The boat rolled back and forth in the surf as it disintegrated, depositing shards of wreckage in the frothing sea and tossing its rigging dangerously overhead of the mariners. Utilizing night vision goggles, Lieutenant Commander Molthen held a stable hover in the pitch black night as he briefed his crew on their course of action and area of responsibilities. The hoist directly off the stricken vessel was deemed too dangerous, so it was decided that a direct deployment of the swimmer would be used. Time was of the essence due to the razor-sharp debris surrounding the boat and its potential of vessel rolling over at any time. As the survivors jumped into the water one by one, the flight mechanic skillfully lowered the rescue swimmer between the waves and the shoal-torn water as the safety pilot called altitude and wave intervals. Performing a no-reference hoist and utilizing a maneuver that is only practiced at Advanced Helicopter Rescue School, Lieutenant Commander Molthen expertly completed the 3 very difficult hoists. Lieutenant Commander Molthen's swift actions and precise aeronautical skills were instrumental in the saving of 3 lives. His diligence, perseverance, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
I kind of remember that one. That was an exciting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that?
Well, all right. Well, this is kind of, I like said, you had a really tough one in October.
Yeah.
That was the bad one, right? November, December, 2 months later.
Yeah.
You're saving 3 people that a boat is washing up on scene.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, and I was still flying it. I wasn't as excited about flying anymore, but I was probably more professional now. I barely remember that one. It's kind of in a fog after. I know it's exciting. I know you read all these. I'm like, I got it, but I remember the name of the boat, and I remember doing that and putting the swimmer down and getting it. But normally you don't do a direct deployment. The swimmer's free swimming and he puts them in the basket. Yeah. But that's pretty much, you get down there, wrap them up, and bring them up. So I wish, like I said, I wish I'd written all that down. But yeah, and then the worst is when you get over the boat and you can't see anything. It's just black. It's all flight mech. Flight mech's telling you forward and right, forward and back, left, back, swimmer's hanging down there. So you got your buddy down hanging below, ready to, get smashed up against a ship and everything. You don't want him to hit anything in the water. And it's a lot. It's scary. It's scary. It's scary for you guys, but
I like human wrecking balls. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we're all young and all that. But by now I'm 40. How old was I when that one happened? I was 48 years old. So so I'm getting.
You've got experience under your belt at that point. I'm getting
up there. I remember when I would get in the helicopter and somebody say, "Hey, I'm 18 years old." I'm like, in the back, I'm like, dude, you're the same age as my kids. Then all of a sudden, the pilots start becoming the same age as your kids, and now the kids in the back are, I'm older than their grandparents. Some of them. So, I know. But anyway, it's that's just the flight mech and everybody just working together and doing it. And when you started reading it, this one I didn't get an award for, but it was in Oregon Inlet too. Oregon Inlet's like a really nasty place. And I'm glad I could talk about this now, but there's a boat, same thing. It's up against the shoals right here. It's trying to get in, and it has power. It's not broken up. It's trying to get off the sandbar to get back into Oregon Inlet. And it was just a nasty night. So we get out there, and I'm like, oh, this hoist is going to suck. And the boat, they had a 42-foot, whatever, the Coast Guard boat over there who couldn't get in there to get them. Goes, hey, sir, why don't you try to blow them off the sandbar? I'm like, no, I'm not supposed to do that. But I go, you know what? I'm almost 50. What are they going to do? Come out here, send me in the military, give me a whatever. So I got down low, and I pushed that boat. We pushed that with the flight mech.
With the rotor wash.
Pushed that with the rotor wash, and we pushed it off the sandbar, and it got in, and it safe got going again. Because if we hadn't done that, it was
a good idea.
I know, but then I told the crew, I go, let's not talk about this to anybody. It worked.
Yeah, but that's a great idea.
It is a great idea, but at the same time, if anybody had found out about it then, we just said we helped them get off the whatever. But I probably would have gotten a little bit of trouble, working it. But that's 3 lives saved right there. Those guys, that would have been a hell of a hard hoist to get those guys off there. And I had done it a couple times before. That case right there. But but I didn't tell anybody because I get in trouble doing that.
Yeah.
I hope they can't court-martial me now after 20 years.
So. Yeah, I imagine not. But it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so.
So I remember hearing a similar story out of Finland where a sailboat was in a bad spot and they were trying to get out, but the wind wasn't helping them.
Yeah.
And the pilot rolled up in a certain spot and their rotor wash filled the sails to get them out.
See, that's brilliant.
In an area.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome. Like,
yeah. Until you roll a boat over or something.
Yeah.
But
oops.
No, it is. But yeah. No, that's brilliant. That's really good. Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah. Well, it was funny too because years before that, Dave Gunderson and I were out and we had to land on another ship. None of us were ship qualled at the time. We had to land on a ship, and he's like, "Well, let's just do the hoist." And I'm over the ship. It was a big, Canadian ship, with like 2 things. I'm like, "Why are we hoisting if we can land?" And as he's going, and he's going through the whole checklist, and I'm like, get closer, and I go boink, and I land. He was reading the check. Well, what'd you do that for? I go, dude, it's so much safer to land. But anyway, that goes way back. So yeah, we used to land on ships all the time without being qualled, and then they started getting us qualified.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a landing. It's a landing.
It's a landing. Yeah. Yeah. So
as long as it's not pitching and rolling at some crazy.
Yeah, and they have limits for that. They'll tell you no, you can't do it. But
yeah. And the boat will tell you like, no,
you
do not come land on us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but outside of that, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more, and
Good.
then,
Okay.
we'll get rid of.
I think I know which one you're talking about now. Yeah.
Okay. So this one, it's great. In lieu of 7th, citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Medal, Gold Star in lieu of 7th. To Lieutenant Commander Daniel J. Molthen, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Commander Molthen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as aircraft commander aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6034 on 2 December 2009. His crew responded to a distress signal from the sailing vessel Croc, located 150 nautical miles south of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. The damaged sailing vessel had taken on water while being battered by gale force winds and 25-foot to 30-foot seas. Overcoming fatigue and air sickness as a result of the moderate to severe turbulence, he and the crew flew through the night, navigating through heavy snow and rain showers, low ceilings, and near zero visibility to the Croc's position. Once on scene, he quickly assessed the situation and formulated a plan to rescue the terrified survivors. He expertly maneuvered the aircraft and skillfully maintained a stable hover while the flight mechanic completed the demanding hoist of the rescue swimmer into the tumultuous seas. Moments after the first survivor was safely hoisted into the cabin, a malfunction obscured all visual references and required him to depart the hover using only instruments. He immediately called for a mark and position of the swimmer and then quickly initiated steps to resolve the malfunction. Without delay, he relocated the swimmer and reestablished a stable hover in the challenging conditions. Facing the difficult task of recovering the rescue swimmer, he worked seamlessly with the flight mechanic to bring the swimmer back into the safety of the aircraft as deteriorating weather reduced the visibility to near zero. The second survivor, knowing his companion was safe, chose to remain with the vessel, and he was subsequently rescued the next day. His swift actions, extraordinary aviation skills, and steady leadership were instrumental in the saving of a life and rendered great assistance to another. Lieutenant Commander Molthen's dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Yes.
That was kind of a funny one.
Okay.
Because you were talking about the malfunction.
Yeah.
They talk about the malfunction and all this and everything. Well, I'll tell you, I'll get into the function later. But yeah, we took off, we flew down. It was nasty and all this, and this sailboat was getting all hammered around. And so every time we would talk to the captain of the boat, we'd hear a screaming woman. That's why I call it the screaming woman case. She's screaming. And I'm like, could you tell her to shut up? He goes, I can't. And so we finally got it. I said, we're going to get your girlfriend on the back of the boat, and she's going to jump off into the swimmer, and then we're going to get the swimmer, get her and hoist her up with the basket. And he goes, okay. So we get it all day, check, everything's going great. Get to lower the swimmer in the water. He gets over there, and it took a while, and still everything's going crazy, but she jumps in the water. So we get the basket over, put it there. The swimmer gets this woman in the basket. And as she's coming up, I've never heard this before, over a huge storm, that aircraft engines, I can hear her screaming as she's coming up. I'm like, ooh. Anyway, so we get her up, and the flight mech puts her, sits her down, and it's kind of cold out, and she's wet and everything. So my co-pilot, great pilot, I'm not going to mention any names. I'm going to mention a name, Matt Herring, great guy.
Nice.
You probably met him at the Verticut. Ex-Navy guy, great friend. I see. Anyway, I just love the guy. He's a great pilot. But we're sitting there, and it's like it's cold in there. So we're like, yeah, turn the heat. So he reaches up, turns the ECS on for heat. Well, the ECS just fogs up the whole cockpit.
Oh no!
It went from I got goggles on. I'm looking down at the rescue swimmer. I can't remember who it is, and all of a sudden, he turns on the heater or whatever, the ECS, the heater, the air. Boom! Everything fogged. That was the malfunction. My goggles fogged up. I couldn't see anything. So I'm looking down. Next thing you know, I can't see a damn thing. And right away, I'm like, lost swimmer. So he's over there turning the ECS off, of course, and then, flashing lights and all this. And I go right back down the instruments like this, looking under my goggles, level my wings, and just, because we were probably about 60, 70 feet, level my wings and just do an instrument departure off the water straight up.
Yeah.
A couple degrees nose down and take off. And I'm like, holy crap. That was horrible. Because, I couldn't see a damn thing. So we get up and I climb up to, I think, 200, 300 feet and just start doing the circle. Right. In the meantime, you turn it off and everything cleared up. And now we're looking for the swimmer. The flight mech was great. He kept an eye on him. We see the strobe. And then it was pretty, then we had to come back around, shoot an approach down and get the swimmer. So we get the swimmer up there, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. He's like, what the hell happened? But anyway, so then the guy in the boat, there were probably two reasons. He probably saw us like leave the swimmer in the water and go around. And then plus it got quiet on his boat all of a sudden. The screaming woman wasn't screaming. She's kind of stopped screaming in the helicopter, but you could hear her talk. She was so annoying. But anyway, he goes, hey, I think I'm going to stick it. I think I'm going to stick it out. He got on the radio. I go, okay, this is your last chance because I am not doing this again. He goes, that's okay. I think I'll be okay. I go, I can't talk you off the boat. I recommend getting off the boat, but we're going to take off. You're on your own. So we did. We took off, left him on the boat, flew all the way back to Elizabeth City. And the last thing I want to do is look at this, see this. I just, anyway. So we get her into a flight suit, dry, and she comes in, and then she's in our wardroom, and I walk in, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't want to see her. But, and she's still kind of all excited. And I go, if she starts screaming, I don't know what I'll do. And so she just looks at me and she goes, I don't believe in God. I go, well, maybe you should. I don't know. Why do you bring that up? I don't care. And so, and then that's funny because it's never come across my mind, but I'm like, God, I wish we'd just thrown her back. And I think I told that to my co-pilot, like, that's really bad. But I'm like, oh, God. But anyway, so that's why that was kind of a funny case.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So that was the screaming woman case. And the guy survived, which was good, but he got the heck beat out of him. But yeah, and I remember, the route coming down there. And one of the prior cases we did, we just got the, what's the new H60 model, the T, no.
The Mike model?
No, it was what do we call it? It was like we had the J model, then we had was it the Mike? Anyway, we had just got the new model with the whole glass cockpit and everything, and we're flying.
Oh, nice. Oh, not very nice. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what the model was, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they changed them all into it, but it was still kind of new. And we're flying down the Alligator River, and everything went out in a storm, and we're going down to rescue I think that was the other one with the Army guy, and so. We had to turn around back and fly with no instruments or anything back to Elizabeth City, land, get another helicopter, take off. It was nighttime and it's a big storm. And we had to take off again with another helicopter. I'm like, if this one goes, man, I'm just calling it a day. But anyway, I digress. But the screaming woman one, I was like, golly, why does she have to scream the whole time? It's making me nervous. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I saw Matt down there.
The part about all this, like, you can't make any of this stuff up.
I know. It's like, but that was another time with the swimmer, and that kind of, and I was still just not getting over, but I was still kind of messed up with the 134. So that happened, and then I'm like, oh man. So I think that was the last one, wasn't it? I think.
So that's the last one that I have, unless you can think of any more that you want to share.
What year was that one?
That was 2009.
Yeah, so that was my last one, and right after that. Matt and I were out flying with, doing swimmer stuff, and the hoist broke and put me over. But that one before that, it was just, and I wasn't as excited about SAR, and just like with the woman, I was just like, okay, I'm getting to the end of my career here. And what's funny about my career is I was in 04 for like 10 years. I don't know if you heard this one, but I got passed over for commander back whenever. And, so I was like, that's cool. I'll just get passed over again. I'll retire, go fly, whatever. Kids are still in school. Well, I kind of befriended Admiral Allen, Thad Allen. I used to fly him around when he was a 3-star all the time, and he called me his bony pilot friend. And then we went to a couple award things with him, and so I flew him one time someplace, and we landed. And he goes, "Hey Dan, what you gonna do?" I go, "Well, I've been passed over twice, so I'm gonna retire." And he goes, "Well, I'm gonna try to make comment on it." Somehow, he pulled some strings, and I got continued. So I got passed over twice, and I got 2 more years. So I got passed over 2 more times. So I got to fly for 2 more years, and then I saw him at the thing for the Guardian, the movie, and he was funny because he's got all these captains and admirals all around, with their noses up his butt and stuff, talking at the big premiere party, and some whatever. And he looks over at Teresa and he goes, "Dan, my bony pilot friend." He just walks away from all of them over to me and Teresa. "Well, what's going on?" I go, "Well, thanks for the last one." He didn't say anything. He gave me 2 more years. So I got passed
come on
6-7 times for commander, but I got to fly the whole time. So
that's awesome.
That's how because I got to Elizabeth City in 2001 and I retired from there 10 years later, 11 years later. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So that's a story about me getting passed over. So anyway,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, you making a good impression on somebody, and you never know what it might lead to.
The Admiral, the Lieutenant Commander and Admiral Allen, he's just a nice guy. I used to fly him all over the place. So, because, you're flying with me again. I go, "Yeah, Admiral, what do you want to do?" This and that. But anyway, so it worked out good. But so I had a great career. It didn't end up the way I wanted to, but, you never know what's going to happen. Don't put that question mark after the period, So I'm in a great place right now. But, after all those rescues and I survived and, I got a million other stories that probably would pop up if we had another 20 hours, but
we might, I might call you again. That's what might happen.
Anytime. But what's weird, not one last, I'll talk forever if you want, but on the bad case with Brad, right away they started trying, the controllers started covering their asses, because right when I landed, one of them, I had to talk to one of the controllers up there, and he goes, "Yeah, we didn't make you go on this case, did we?" I'm like, I freaking hung up on him. I'm like, I go, "They're trying to cover their asses." Gosh. And then it took 2 years to get the safety and the whatever messages out, which is supposed to take 6 months, and it just was driving me crazy because there's so much that went on to it. I haven't read any of the messages or anything like that, but it just took forever. And the way I got that was an air medal one, wasn't it?
Air medal. Yes, sir.
And the way I got it was 2 years after it happened, I was retired, and Matt Herring came over to my house for a beer, and he had the air medal. Goes, "Oh yeah, this just got approved. Here you are. Here's your air medal." At home after I'd been retired, because I don't know what they were doing, but it just took so long for them to do, and it kind of pissed me off, because I was like, we need to get some of this information out, But
I'm very thankful that you shared even a piece of it.
That's a lot more than I've talked about in 15 years. So that's
I appreciate it. Thank you. Because there's a lot of people that can learn a lot from that.
No, they do, and a lot of people know about it, but it worked out okay, but it was still it was the worst night of my life. So, but I'm back. I'm doing okay.
But you're here.
I have my moments. But my wife, she knows, like, if I'm getting
smash you back into reality.
Yeah, you know what she does? If we're sitting out with friends or something, and I start talking, I start getting anxious and all this, she'll like tap me on the leg twice, tap, double tap, and that's for me to just shut up and just relax.
Nice.
So she double taps me when I need it.
That's great. That's a good woman right there.
Oh, she's
Mel does that
awesome.
all the time to me. She's gonna hear this double tap thing. She's gonna be like, "Oh, I got you now."
She knows that. But even my kids, they were great. After the bad case, my 2 sons were still there. My daughter had gone off to school, and they knew. They handled it really good. They were just in high school, and they talked to my friends who would come over and say, "How's he?" So the family really came around. So, and then my daughter goes and marries an Army pilot who's a Coast Guard pilot now. And I remember when she was 14. Well,
congratulations.
With daughters. So when I was 14, she was mad at me, poking me in the chest. And I'm trying not to laugh, but she's like, I'm never going to date a military guy, especially pilots, because you're all jerks. I've been around you guys for so long, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes to college and she marries a guy who wants to be an Army pilot, who becomes an Army pilot. And then now he's a lieutenant in the Coast Guard. Yeah, Scott Swan, just a great guy. So anyway.
Oh, I love it.
I know. Yeah.
Well, Dan, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing just an incredible career.
Oh, I appreciate it.
It's awesome. Yeah, no, this has been fantastic. I've loved every minute. I'm on the edge of my seat the entire conversation. This has been just so wonderful.
Thank you for keeping me on subject. So, because sometimes I go off here, there, they're all over the place.
No way, this is great.
And my buddies will be like, yeah, that's Dan. He's all over the place. So
well, we're gonna close this out because I have one more question for you. And,
okay, good.
And I know actually you and I are gonna touch on this real quick. And we're gonna tell everybody right now because you just came up with this in our conversation. Is it write down on the back of the award or whatever you get, your write up you get? What should we tell everybody to write down so they can remember it?
I think you got to put the crew, of course, with their ranks. The ranks and everything, so all that. And maybe just write some other stories like the screaming woman I could hear come up, and just so it's on the award. You won't lose it. My awards sit underneath my bed for years, and I just pulled them out for you the other day. But at least you can go back and go, oh yeah, that swimmer was Brad Pagage. This was this guy, and it just brings back good and bad memories, but mostly good. So I would just write. I just thought about this time. Just write down everything on the back of it, because 20, 30 years from now, you're not going to remember who you were with all the time. It might come back somehow, but, it'd be kind of nice and just write a little summary.
It's a great idea, too. I wish I had done it to all mine.
Yeah.
I actually think of some rescues that I've done that, you don't get anything out of, but just little notes. You're like, oh, that would have been great to.
Just something else so you can remember. Because then I would remember that one SAR case you told me. I'd be like, oh, I don't remember that one. That's a good one. Sailboat, 3 people on board, you hoist them up. Yeah, I've done that before about 3 times. No, I'm just glad that you get these stories out. There's, a lot of, I'm a huge World War II fanatic. I'm reading about a guy who was in a tail of a B-17 and he got shot off and he spun 4 miles to the earth and lived. And I'm just finishing up that. But there's so many great stories out there. And if people like you don't get it, write it, a book, or do a podcast, it's gone. I mean, I would have never talked about these cases. It's a lot of BS, man.
It's all worth it to me.
Oh, so. Me too.
Let me ask one more question.
Okay, one question.
We'll close out of here. One more question. You had an incredible career with ups, downs, ins, outs, good, bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you had a piece of advice that you would pass on to everybody out there, what would it be?
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's
study more. Know your EPs a little bit better. I was never the smartest. That's always a good one. But if you need help, talk to somebody. After the case, talk to somebody. If you do see somebody that you think might have some issues, talk to them about that. Just talk to them, say there's some options, and if you really think they need help, turn them in. Or not turn them in, but just get help. Nowadays, it's not as bad, like you say, losing your wings if something happens. It's not as bad nowadays. You could keep them and you can keep flying, but you got to get that in mind, because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass like it did me 2 years later. So I think that's good. And we all train. You can say, oh, we should train. We all train. We do this and that, but we got to keep our minds. We got to be fit to fly. That's what I love to say. So
I love it.
It works out. Yeah. Right. So.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me and sharing all of these amazing, incredible stories. And I look forward to the day you and I can get together again and sit back and have whiskey.
I'm going to look up your DFC and air medal, because they have a whole thing of it on the pterodactyl.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
They're in there.
If you're ever in Florida, man, come on down and visit. I know it's a little trip, but.
I'll make a phone call. I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, come on down anytime you need help with anything. Just let me know.
Yes, sir. Right on. Well, thank you. And I'll see you soon. Maybe even the next Verticon.
Yeah, I don't know if they invite me. I don't know how my speech went last time, so.
Maybe. Either way, I'm going to find you. We'll have a beer together.
That sounds good to me, man. It's great talking to you, Jason. Awesome. You take care.
You too. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go.
Now, it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real Rescue. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Switlik. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals, zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlik Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlik.com. Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single-point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
Blue Drop Training and Simulation. Blue Drop Training and Simulation for equipping your team with essential training solutions, including highly interactive courseware and advanced VR/MR simulation training tools. Explore more of Blue Drop's training solutions at bluedropts.com.
And Ready Bar. Originally made for astronauts, now designed for first responders and built for you. This high-performance meal bar provides complete nutrition without the sugar crash. A must-have for any helmet bag, swimmer bag, or everyday pack. Get yours today at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. Ready Bar. Zero crash. All fuel. Hey, Dan, if I asked you like the funniest training story that ever happened on a training flight, do you have one? Do you know something that happened? Do you remember something that happened?
Yeah, I got one. I mean,
right,
so we're out there hoisting at night and doing everything's going great, and all of a sudden, we got the baskets down on deck, and we're doing something, and all of a sudden the flight mech just stops talking. And he goes, "Oh, forward and right 50." I'm like, "What the heck was that all about?" And so we get everything done. We fly back. And we had the hoist camera going. And I'm watching the hoist camera for the train just to see how the training went. The freaking flight mech fell out of the aircraft with his strap on and didn't say a word. He was hanging below the helicopter and he climbed back up. That was when he hesitated. And was it Klinkafus? I don't know. But anyway, I was like, what the hell are you supposed to if that happened, I would have canceled. I would have said, we're going back home. You fell out of the aircraft. But he did. He fell out and he crawled back up in, never told anybody because a swimmer was on deck on the boat or something. And I'm like, dude, you got to tell us that next time. You can't fall out of an aircraft, crawl back in, and then keep going.